Hello everyone. I am the storyteller. Tonight, I'll tell you a story that doesn't stay put. It crawls under your skin, waits in the marrow, and comes alive when the silence gets too heavy. Some call it an urban legend, others a patient's hallucination. But I know better. Because I walked those halls. It began at Greystone Park Psychiatric Hospital in New Jersey, a place built for healing, but steeped in rot. The walls there don't just hold echoes. They breathe. They remember. And if you step wrong, they'll pull you into a rhythm that isn't yours. The locals whisper about what lives beneath the wards. They don't give it a name. They just pass along rules, brittle and incomplete, hoping they'll be enough to keep the hunger at bay. So settle in. Listen to the hush between heartbeats. And follow me down into the dark, where the dance never ends. But whatever you do, don't clap in time. After the accident, I needed money fast. I'm not talking about a fender bender or a busted bumper. I'm talking about something that leaves you with a stack of bills that insurance won't touch, a messed up shoulder that keeps you from hauling drywall, and a landlord knocking on your door for rent you don't got. So when I saw the job posting $25 an hour, night shift, no experience required, I should have known something was off. Security guard at Greystone Park Psychiatric Hospital. Yeah, that Greystone. The one they shut down back in 2008. The one people say is haunted. But I didn't care. Haunted don't mean nothing when PSENG is about to shut your lights off. The application was easy. Too easy. No drug test, no background check, no references. Just a phone call from some guy named Mr. Kavanaugh, telling me to show up at the south gate at dusk. Ask for the guidelines, he said. Don't call them rules. Guidelines. You follow them, you'll be fine. That should have been the first red flag. Greystone sits like a carcass in the woods of Morris Plains, its main building stretching half a mile long, windows like black eyes staring at nothing. They tore parts of it down years back, but what's left is still enough to swallow you whole. The guard shack was just a trailer by the south gate. The man waiting for me wasn't wearing a uniform, just slacks, a white shirt with the sleeves rolled, and a face that looked like it hadn't smiled since the Clinton administration. "You're O'Brien?" he asked. I nodded. He handed me a laminated sheet, edges worn from use. "These are your guidelines. Read them before you step inside. Memorize them if you got a brain worth anything." I looked down. 10 bullet points, typed on yellowing paper, laminated over cheap plastic. No letterhead, no company logo. Just the guidelines for South Wing Night Security Greystone. I'll write them out here exactly as they were. You need to see them. You need to understand. The guidelines. 1. Do not enter the East Wing. Ever. The doors will sometimes appear unlocked. They are not for you. 2. If you hear music after midnight, remain still. Do not hum, do not tap your foot, do not move with the rhythm. 3. At 3 a.m. exactly, the main corridor lights will flicker. Do not be in the corridor when this happens. 4. The women in white gowns are not patients. Do not acknowledge them, and above all, do not follow if they beckon. 5. When conducting rounds, always walk counterclockwise. Clockwise walking draws attention. 6. If someone asks you for wine, do not respond. Do not say you don't have any. Do not say anything. 7. In the staff lounge, you may find a bottle of red liquid. Do not drink. Do not touch. Leave it where it is. 8. At 4 a.m., you may hear singing from the courtyard. Stay inside. The windows must remain shut. 9. Never let your flashlight beam touch the murals on the 3rd floor. 10. If you hear footsteps running behind you, do not run. Do not turn. Wait until they fade. At the bottom, in bold. Failure to comply with guidelines will result in immediate consequences. I looked at Kavanaugh and laughed. Couldn't help myself. This some hazing thing? You got guys dressed up in sheets waiting to spook the new guy. He didn't laugh. He didn't even blink. You'll last the night if you listen, he said. Most don't. He handed me a ring of keys heavy enough to break a toe. Clock in at the staff office. Do your rounds. Stay alive. And just like that, he walked off into the dark. First rounds. The halls of Greystone are wrong. That's the only word I've got for it. Wrong in their size, wrong in their silence. You ever walk into a space built for hundreds of people but empty for years? Your footsteps echo like they don't belong to you. I told myself the rules were bullshit. Just ways to keep the new guy jumpy. But I followed them anyway. Counterclockwise rounds. Keys jangling on my belt. My flashlight cutting across peeling paint and rusted gurneys. The air smelled like wet plaster and mold. At 12:37 a.m., I heard it. Music. Not from a radio, not from some speaker left behind. This was old. Fiddle, tambourine, the kind of music you'd hear spilling from a fire in the woods 2,000 years ago. It came faint, then louder, down the main corridor. My first thought was squatters. But then I remembered Rule 2. Remain still. Don't move with the rhythm. And God help me, almost didn't make it. Because it wasn't just hearing the music. It was feeling it. Like it wanted inside my bones, wanted to shake me loose and make me dance until my legs gave out. I gripped my flashlight and stood frozen, nails biting into my palm. The music swelled, then passed like a tide, rolling down the corridor and away into the black. When it was gone, I was sweating through my shirt. The woman in white. At 1:15, second floor. I was checking doors, muttering to myself just to break the silence. That's when I saw her. White gown, hair hanging down in ropes, skin pale as candle wax. Standing in the middle of the hall like she'd been waiting for me. My throat closed. She raised her hand beckoning. Slow, graceful. Like a dancer. I remembered Rule 4. The women in white gowns are not patients. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Her hand trembled, curled in that same gesture, and then she smiled. Not a kind smile. A smile like a knife. Then she was gone. No sound. No footsteps. Just gone. The murals. By 2:30, I thought I was losing my mind. I kept muttering the rules to myself like prayers. On the third floor, my flashlight beam caught something that made me stumble back. The murals. Not graffiti. Not patient doodles. These were painted with care, with devotion. Women dancing in circles, hair flying wild, blood pouring from animals torn apart by bare hands. Faces with eyes rolled back in ecstasy. I almost raised my light higher before Rule 9 screamed in my head. Never let your flashlight beam touch the murals. I dropped my hand fast, heart hammering. But even in that glimpse, I saw enough. The painted women weren't just women. Their mouths were too wide, their fingers too long. And I swear to God one of them was looking right at me. The singing. By 3:55 I was curled in the staff lounge chair, trying to breathe through the panic, when it started. Singing. Low at first, like a hum through the walls. Then louder. Higher. Dozens of voices, weaving together, rising and falling. Women's voices. It poured from the courtyard windows. My body wanted to move to it, wanted to fling the windows open and climb out into the night. I shoved my hands over my ears. The sound vibrated in my teeth, in my bones. And then something slammed against the glass. I didn't look. I couldn't. Rule 8. Stay inside. Windows shut. The singing rose to a fever pitch, then silence. The footsteps. At 4:47, almost the end of my shift. I thought maybe I'd make it. Then I heard them. Footsteps running down the hall behind me. Fast. Too fast. I froze. Rule 10. Do not run. Do not turn. The footsteps came closer. Closer. My throat locked. Sweat trickled down my spine. Then they passed right through me. Cold, like plunging into ice water. I bit my tongue to keep from screaming. When it faded, I turned. The hall was empty. Dawn. At 6 o'clock, the night ended. Just like that. The air lightened, the building sighed like something had been holding its breath. Kavanaugh met me at the gate. You lived, he said, like it surprised him. I shoved the guidelines back into his hand. What the hell is this place? I demanded. What's in there? He pocketed the sheet, lit a cigarette. Not what? Who? He blew smoke into the dawn. And if you're smart, you'll never find out more than you already know. But I wasn't smart. Because even then, a part of me needed to know why. Why music in the night? Why the women in white? Why the murals watched me with hungry eyes? And most of all, why the rules worked. I barely slept after that first shift. My body lay flat on the mattress in my crummy little apartment, but my ears kept straining for music. My legs kept twitching like they'd start dancing on their own. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw her, the woman in white, beckoning me deeper into those halls. I told myself I wasn't going back. Not for any money. Not even for survival. But then I checked my bank account. $37 and change. The electric bill already past due. And when I called Kavanaugh to quit, his voice was calm, flat. You'll come back, he said. And I hated him because he was right. Second night. Walking up the cracked asphalt drive again, the building loomed bigger. Like it had grown in the day I'd been gone. The laminated guidelines dug into my back pocket. I'd read them so many times the words had grooves in my brain. Kavanaugh wasn't at the gate this time. Just the trailer, the key ring, and the silence. Inside, Greystone felt alive. Not with people, but with waiting. The air pressed heavier on my chest. The paint seemed to curl on the walls in shapes that looked like faces. I started rounds, counterclockwise. Always counterclockwise. My lips moved without thinking, whispering the rules like prayer beads. The first break in the pattern. At 12:05, I heard it again. The music. Only this time, it wasn't faint and distant. It was inside the room with me. I froze, throat tight. A fiddle scraping raw, a drumbeat pounding steady. It came from the staff office I'd just unlocked. I backed away slow. Rule 2, remain still. Don't move with the rhythm. But what happens if the music's right there with you? The door swung open. And for a second, just a second, saw them. Shadows spinning, arms upraised, hair flying, feet pounding like thunder. A circle of women, faces blurred, but their mouths stretched wide in rapture. Then the lights flickered and they were gone. Only the smell remained. Sweat. Wine. And blood. Murmurs on the third floor. By 1 o'clock, I couldn't shake it. I had to see the murals again. I crept up the stairwell, careful with my flashlight. Never beam on the walls, never shine it at the paintings. But my eyes adjusted enough. The dancers in paint looked different. Last night, they'd been locked in still poses. Tonight, their arms blurred. Their mouths seemed wider. I swear their eyes had moved. They were no longer looking up at the sky. They were looking at me. And I could hear it. Not just see it. A whisper in my skull. Words I didn't understand, low and rhythmic, repeated until I thought my head would split. I dropped my flashlight, and when it hit the floor, for an instant the beam cut across the mural. The painted women smiled. I kicked the light away, shaking so hard I almost dropped the keys. The woman returns. She waited for me at 2:20, at the bend near the old patient showers. Same pale gown, same hand gesture, beckoning. Only this time, she wasn't silent. Her lips parted, and in a voice soft as lullaby she said, "Come drink." Every muscle in me wanted to obey. My mouth watered though I was bone dry. My tongue ached for a taste I couldn't name. I bit down hard, blood filling my mouth, copper and hot. That snapped me back. I turned and walked the other way. My shoulder throbbed with each step, like invisible hands were clawing at me. Behind me, her voice rose, not a whisper now but a shriek. "Come drink." I didn't look back. I couldn't. Rule 3. 3 a.m. came, and with it, the flicker of the corridor lights. Last night I'd made sure not to be in the hallway. Tonight, I misjudged the time. The lights sputtered above me. I was caught. For a split second, the corridor wasn't a corridor. The paint peeled back like skin, revealing forest. Trees bursting through the floor. Torches lining a path. Women running, laughing, screaming, smeared in blood. And at the end of the hall something bigger. Antlers. Shadow. Watching. I dove into the nearest room, slammed the door, hard a jackhammer. When I looked again, it was just peeling plaster. But on the floor, under my boots, were muddy footprints. Bare, and small. Leading toward the door I'd closed. The bottle. Around 3:30, in the staff lounge, I saw it. Rule 7. A bottle on the table. Thick glass. Red liquid glistening under the light. Not wine. Thicker. Darker. The smell made my throat tighten. Copper and sweetness mixed. My body screamed to touch it, to drink it, to give in. I backed away. But the bottle wasn't still. The surface of the liquid rippled, as though something inside was breathing. I shoved the door shut and locked it. I don't care if it was just in my head. I couldn't stand to look at it. 4 a.m. The singing started again. Louder this time. I pressed myself into the corner of the corridor, hands over my ears. It didn't help. The voices crawled inside me, pulling at my chest, my hips, my legs, urging me to move. I wanted to throw myself out the window, wanted to be part of that wild chorus. Then crash. The glass shook. A hand smacked against the pane. Pale skin. Red-stained fingers. The singing peaked in a frenzy. My body shivered with the need to open the window, to leap out into the dark. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. That grounded me. Kept me inside until the voices died. When silence came, the glass was smeared with a handprint. Sticky. Red. The runner. Closer to dawn, I knew what was coming. The footsteps. I told myself I was ready this time. 4:50, the pounding started behind me. Closer. Closer. My body screamed to turn. I clenched my fists, stood still, sweat dripping. Then the runner passed through me. But this time I saw her. Not a blur. Not a shadow. A woman in white, hair flying, mouth stretched open in laughter. Eyes locked on mine as she ripped through me like smoke. And for half a heartbeat my legs moved with her. Like she'd taken part of me with her in her frenzy. Then she was gone. Dawn again. I staggered out at sunrise, body aching like I'd run 10 miles though I'd barely moved. Kavanaugh was waiting this time. Smoking as always. "You're still alive," he said, same words, same flat tone. I shoved the guidelines at him. "They're not rules," I snapped. "They're their baited traps. What the hell is in there?" He just shrugged. "You lasted 2 nights. Most don't make it past 1. I grabbed his arm. "Tell me the truth." For the first time, his face cracked. A shadow of fear flickered there. "You don't want to know their names," he said. But that was a lie. Because the longer I worked, the closer I came to finding out. And the name was already written. On the murals. In the whispers. In the blood. You'd think by the 3rd night I'd be used to it. That I'd walk into Greystone and shrug at the singing, the shadows, the women in white. But that's the thing. The rules don't make it easier. They just keep you alive. And every night the building feels heavier, like it's leaning closer, waiting for me to slip. When I clocked in, the staff office smelled different. Less mildew, more paper. Old paper. On the desk sat a leather-bound book. Worn, cracked, its cover greasy with years of hands. I shouldn't have touched it. But curiosity wins when you're half broke and half mad. The first page was written in cramped handwriting, dated 1972. Day 14. The women in white appeared again. Dr. Hanlon says they're projections of hysteria. I don't believe him. They leave footprints. Page after page, different handwritings. Notes about the singing, the murals, guidelines that save lives. One line repeated often, scrawled in different pens, different years. They don't want you sober. My stomach turned cold. I shoved the journal in my jacket. The East Wing Temptation. Rule 1, do not enter the East Wing. But tonight, as I passed the heavy doors, the lock hung broken. The gap gaped like a mouth. Something whispered from the dark. "Wine, come drink." The same voice as the woman in white. Sweet and ruined. My legs carried me one step forward before I stopped myself. I pressed my forehead against the cold wood, breath shaking. On the other side came a sound like laughter and glass breaking. I stepped back, slammed the lock shut, and ran my key through it until the metal squealed. I don't want to know what's in there. Not yet. 12:40 a.m. The music again. Same rhythm. Same pull in my chest. Only this time, it had words. Not English. Not any language I know. But my mouth moved like it wanted to sing along. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. That's the only thing that works, the taste of my own body anchoring me. The music rolled past. But as it faded, I heard footsteps mixed in. Not the runner. Different. Slow. Measured. Bare feet slapping stone. I turned a corner and found red footprints on the tiles. Small. Feminine. Leading straight toward the murals. Murals shift again. By 1:15 I was back at the 3rd floor murals. They'd changed. Not just subtle movement like before. Entire new sections appeared. Dancers with antlers strapped to their heads. Men torn apart, limbs flung in arcs of crimson. And above them, painted letters. Greek. I didn't know what they meant, but I recognized the alphabet. The journal in my jacket rattled against my ribs. I knew if I flipped far enough, someone must have written about these words. But my hands shook too hard to open it. Rule 6 tested. Halfway through rounds, I heard someone behind me. "Hey," a voice whispered. "Got any wine?" My throat went dry. Rule 6, do not respond. The voice came closer. Softer. Desperate. "Please. Just a sip." My body itched to say something. Anything. To ease the ache in that voice. But I bit my tongue. Stayed silent. Then the begging turned to a snarl. Coward. Thief. Drink with us. Hot breath slammed against my ear. My knees buckled. But I didn't answer. When I looked back, the corridor was empty. The staff lounge, not just a bottle. At 3:20, I risked the lounge again. The bottle was still there. But this time, it wasn't alone. Chalk circles marked the floor. Candles half burnt. Someone had done a ritual here. Not squatters older than that. On the table, next to the bottle, lay a photograph. Black and white. A group of women in white gowns. Smiling. Posing in the courtyard. On the back, scribbled, Greystone Women's Choral, 1932. My stomach turned. Their faces were too familiar. The same faces I'd seen dancing in shadow. I dropped the photo and ran. 3 a.m. corridor flicker. I timed it right this time, ducking into a patient room just before the light stuttered. But even from behind the door, I saw it. The forest again. The torches. The frenzy. And this time, I smelled it. Blood, piss, and wine, thick and choking. The laughter bled through the plaster. Screams too. Male. Ripped apart like animals. When the light steadied, I pressed my back to the door, shaking. 4 a.m. the courtyard singing. I braced myself. Sat in the corner of the hall, hands over my ears. The voices rose like a tidal wave. Dozens of women, shrieking ecstasy. And this time, I heard a man's voice screaming with them. Not joy. Terror. The window glass bowed under the force. Shapes pressed against Ethan's, faces, hair whipping wild. The courtyard filled with light torchlight. Dancing shadows. Something slammed into the glass hard enough to spiderweb it. I backed away, throat raw from not screaming. Then it stopped. And on the floor, under the window, lay a single grape. Fresh. Juicy. Purple. I kicked it away like it was poison. The runners change. 4:55, I braced for the runner. The footsteps came. Slapping hard, fast. This time, when she passed through me, she left something behind. A taste in my mouth. Sweet, bitter, burning. Wine. I gagged, spit on the floor. But the taste wouldn't leave. It crawled into my blood, made my head spin. My legs twitched like they wanted to move, wanted to dance. I slammed my fist into the wall until my knuckles split. The pain kept me grounded until dawn. The journal again. Back at the gate, Kavanaugh wasn't there. Just the rising sun and the journal burning a hole in my jacket. I finally opened it, flipping past shaky scrawls, years of terror pressed into pages. And there it was. Written in ink smeared with wine stains. They are not ghosts. They are not patients. They are older than Greystone. Older than New Jersey. They came here when the land was cleared, and the hospital only woke them. They are the women of frenzy. The Baki. The Menads. The word swam on the page. Menads. I didn't know what it meant yet. Not fully. But I knew this. I wasn't just guarding an empty asylum. I was standing in a place where ancient hunger had rooted deep. And the rules? They weren't keeping me safe. They were keeping me edible. By the fourth night, the guidelines felt like scripture. Not because they kept me safe, but because they reminded me I wasn't crazy. Other people had written them. Other people had tried. And every page of that journal pressed against my ribs like a heartbeat. The east wing beckons again. Rule 1, don't enter the east wing. But rules lose their shine when the door rattles all night, hinges straining, as though the building itself wants you inside. I stood there at 11:45, flashlight trembling in my hand. From the crack beneath the door came a drip drip drip. Sticky. Red. The smell hit me next. Not rot, not mold. Sweetness. Like crushed grapes. Like spilled wine. And woven into it, the copper tang of blood. I pressed my palm against the wood. It throbbed back, like something breathing. I stumbled away before it opened on its own. The journal's warnings. At midnight I hid in the office, flipping pages. 1978, we tried feeding them substitutes. Welch's, cheap table wine. Didn't matter. They want the real thing. They want blood in it. 1989, the women in white are no longer silent. They call names now. Staff names. How do they know our names? 1995, stop dancing. Stop dancing. Stop dancing, the word repeated for half a page until the ink trailed into a scribble. I slammed it shut. My hands shook so bad I dropped the flashlight. The building laughed when it hit the floor. Not out loud. But the pipes groaned like giggling throats. The murals bleed. At 12:40, I caught myself walking upstairs again. Like something guiding my feet. The murals had changed. More color now. Fresh strokes, wet in places. One woman's mouth glistened crimson, paint dripping. Only it wasn't paint. It was blood. And below the figures, new Greek letters had bloomed. I pulled the journal. On the back page, someone had written translations. Bacchae. Ecstasy. Tear. Feast. My stomach nodded. The word tear wasn't about crying. It was about ripping. 1:30 a.m. the dance. It started as a low hum. My teeth rattled with it. The walls pulsed. The air thickened. My knees twitched. Rule 2, don't move with the rhythm. But what if your own bones move for you? The humming turned into drumming. My chest thudded in sync. I fought to breathe out of step. Then laughter poured through the vents. Dozens of women. Spinning, shrieking, stomping. My hands lifted without my permission. My feet tapped once, twice. I bit my lip until I tasted blood. That grounded me. The drumming faded, leaving me panting, my legs twitching like they'd run a mile. The bottles multiply. By 2 o'clock I had to check the lounge. The single bottle was gone. In its place stood dozens. Big, small, green glass, clear glass. Each filled to a different line. The smell flooded the room, fermented sweetness, copper, rot. And every bottle had something inside. Fingers. Teeth. Locks of hair floating dark in the liquid. I staggered back, bile rising. One bottle quivered, as if something inside was alive. I slammed the door shut and didn't look back. Rule 3 breaks. I thought I was safe this time. I'd calculated the flicker. But the lights went early 2:55 instead of 3 o'clock. The hall stretched into forest. Torches blazed. And this time I saw them fully. The women. Dozens of them, hair wild, dresses torn, faces smeared red. Dancing, screaming, tearing into the body of a stag. Its eyes rolled white as they ripped it apart with bare hands. One woman looked up. Straight at me. Her mouth stretched into a grin. And she lifted something dripping heart or liver and offered it out. The light snapped back. But the smell stayed. Hot iron. 3:30 a.m. the voice. Near the stairwell, the voice came again. You're thirsty. I clenched my jaw. Rule 6. Don't respond. You can't fight it forever. Silence. Drink, and you'll understand. Something wet brushed my cheek. Like lips. I nearly screamed but swallowed it. Didn't answer. Didn't move. The air thickened, buzzing like flies. Then it was gone. But my mouth burned with thirst. The runner's new trick. 4:55, I braced, fists ready, body rigid. The runner came, pounding feet, hair wild, white gown flaring. When she passed through me this time, she laughed. But it wasn't her laugh I heard. It was mine. Dawn and Kavanaugh. When I stumbled out at sunrise, Kavanaugh leaned against the gate, smoking. "You're still here," he said. I shoved the journal at him. "They're mean ads." His eyes flicked sharp. Then flat again. "You don't know what that means. Tell me." He dropped his cigarette, crushed it under his boot. "All you need to know is this didn't ever join the dance." And then he walked away. But here's the truth. Every night, I get closer. Every night, the rules slip further. And I don't know how many nights I can keep from moving to the music. By the 5th night, I realized something terrifying. The rules weren't written to keep me safe. They were written to delay the inevitable. 11:30 p.m. the first knock. The east wing door never knocked before. That night it did. 3 sharp raps, like a cop demanding entry. I froze in the hall. The journal was under my arm, sweat soaking the pages. Another 3 knocks. Louder. Then a voice. "Let me out." It wasn't a stranger's voice. It was mine. 12 a.m. the stain. I did my usual sweep of the lounge. Bottles everywhere again, stacked along the wall like a wine cellar. But the floor was different. A stain had spread from beneath the locked east wing door all the way across the lounge tile. Purple. Sticky. Sweet. I bent down. It was wine dark, rich, heady. But when I leaned closer, I saw something moving in it. Tiny wriggling things. Larvae. The journal had warned me, when the wine runs, the barrier thins. I stood, nearly slipping, and left footprints of grape purple across the hall. 12:30 a.m. whispering walls. The humming began again. The rhythm in the walls. But this time the building whispered. Not laughter. Not screams. Just dozens of voices chanting. Evo. 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 I scribbled the sound phonetically into the journal, flipped to the translation page. Greek, Evo, a backsheek cry of ecstasy. My blood chilled. It wasn't random noise. It was worship. 1 a.m. the east wing breathes. I tried to avoid it. I swear I did. But the east wing door, it didn't stay shut. The lock snapped open like fingers cracking. The wood expanded, shrank, like lungs. The handle turned. I ran. Straight up the stairs to the mural hall. Sat with my back against the painted women, forcing myself to breathe. When I looked up, they weren't painted anymore. The women leaned out of the wall, hips swaying, eyes glowing faint gold. Their mouths moved with the chanting. One extended a hand to me. Not painted. Flesh. Fingers wet with wine. I bolted back downstairs. The east wing door now hung open an inch. 2 a.m. the corridor flicker. I tried timing it again. Failed. At 1:57 3 minutes early the hall split into forest. Torches. Branches clawing at my arms. This time the maenads weren't far away. They were right there, circling. I smelled fur and blood. Saw a man stumble in, shirt ripped, chest clawed open. He screamed as they swarmed him, ripping him limb from limb. Only it wasn't a man. It was Kavanaugh. And yet I knew he was outside, alive, smoking at dawn like always. The women tore him apart, shrieking with laughter, and hurled his head into the trees. The flicker ended. I was back in the corridor. Alone. But the copper smell clung to my clothes. 2:45 a.m. The voice returns. The stairwell buzzed again. You saw him die, the voice whispered. I clamped my mouth shut. Rule 6. You think rules will keep you safe? They only mark the steps. The dance has already started. Hot breath against my ear. My own voice. Drink. Just a sip. You'll be strong enough to survive. The bottles rattled downstairs, clinking like teeth. I pressed the journal to my chest and prayed to nobody. 3:10 a.m. The door opens. The east wing swung wide without a sound. Inside was dark, but warm air rolled out, thick with grape sweetness and rot. Rule 1, never enter the east wing. But I swear to you I didn't choose. My feet lifted and carried me across the threshold. My flashlight sputtered, then steadied. And I saw. The east wing. Beds lined the walls. Old iron frames. All occupied. Bodies lay there, mouths open, wine trickling down their chins. Some breathed. Some didn't. Their skin was gray, but their lips were purpled. They weren't dead. Not exactly. Above them, the ceiling was covered in roots. Vines. They pulsed, dripping dark liquid into the mouths below. The journal slid from my hand. My flashlight beam landed on words scratched into the floorboards. Do not drink. Something shifted in the back of the room. A shadow of a woman. Or 10 women at once. The humming grew. Louder. Closer. My teeth rattled with it. And then the shadow turned. Gold eyes. A mouth opening wider than it should. Dance with us. 3:59 a.m. Escape. I don't remember how I got out. I remember stumbling. Vomiting purple bile. Crawling on my knees. When I looked up, the east wing door was closed. Sealed like it had never opened. The clock read 4 o'clock. My body shook like I'd run 10 miles. My feet blistered, though I hadn't left the building. And on my tongue sweetness. Wine. Blood. Both. Dawn. Kavanaugh didn't speak to me that morning. Just looked once, eyes narrow, jaw tight. Like he knew I'd been inside. Like maybe he'd been waiting for it. But here's the thing. The rule is broken now. I've crossed the threshold. And the women know my name. By the 6th night, the rules read like a joke. The east wing had opened itself. The corridor flickered whenever it pleased. The bottles multiplied no matter what I did. I kept following them anyway. Like a superstition. Like carrying a rabbit's foot, knowing damn well the rabbit died screaming. 11:45 p.m. The wine stain moves. The stain from the east wing had spread again. Only this time it didn't stay flat. It pulsed. I watched it bubble, rise, roll across the tile like something alive. It slithered down the hall toward me. My boots stuck when I stepped back. The stain clung like tar, stretching. When I yanked my leg free, it let go with a wet snap. The smell stronger than ever. Grapes left to rot in summer heat. My throat ached. My tongue begged. I staggered away, shaking. 12:30 a.m. The journal writes itself. In the office, I opened the journal. Blank page. Then the pen on the desk rolled by itself. Lifted. Stood upright. The tip pressed down. Letters scrawled across the page in jagged strokes. We are in you now. The pen dropped. I slammed the journal shut and shoved it under my jacket. My heart thudded loud enough to drown out the pipes. 1 a.m. The flicker. The corridor went early again. No warning. One blink hospital hall. Next blink forest. The torches hissed. Women shrieked. The ground pulsed under my boots. And this time they didn't ignore me. A Maenad tall, hair tangled with ivy, teeth gleaming wet broke from the circle. She rushed me, eyes burning gold. I stumbled back. She slammed into me, hot and heavy, fingers digging into my shoulders. Dance, she hissed. Her nails cut through my jacket. My body jerked, legs twitching to the drumbeat I couldn't hear a second ago. I fought, bit my lip until I tasted blood again. Her eyes widened. She sniffed. Then smiled. Almost ready. The corridor snapped back to concrete. I collapsed, chest heaving, blood dripping down my arm from the scratches. 2 a.m. The bottles break. In the lounge, half the bottles lay shattered. Dark liquid ran everywhere, soaking into the carpet, splattering the walls. And in the center stood one unbroken bottle, tall, green glass, filled to the brim. Inside floated something pale. A hand. It twitched. My throat clenched. My mouth watered. The craving hit so hard I dropped to my knees. I wanted it. I needed it. I crawled toward the bottle. At the last second I clawed myself back, scraping my palms raw. The craving didn't fade. 3 a.m. The dance inside. I sat in the stairwell, rocking, whispering the rules out loud like a prayer. Don't enter the east wing. Don't answer. Don't move with the rhythm. But the rhythm was inside me now. My knees bounced. My teeth clicked in time. I slapped myself, hard, to stop it. The sting helped. For a moment. Then the whisper came again. My voice. My exact voice. You're already one of us. I screamed this time. I couldn't help it. The building laughed. Pipes rattled like tambourines. 3:45 a.m. The chase. I heard footsteps. Not the runner this time. Heavy, many, all at once. I bolted down the hall. Behind me, shrieks. Dozens of them. I turned a corner, flashlight beam swinging wild. The hall stretched wrong longer than it should be. The doors melted away into black gaps. The shrieks grew closer. My lungs burned. Something caught my ankle. I kicked free, stumbled, scraped my knee bloody. Then hands grabbed my shoulders, yanking me back. I whipped around and froze. It was Kavanaugh. 3:50 a.m. Kavanaugh. His face was pale, slick with sweat. His eyes wild. You're slipping, he hissed. I told you not to join the dance. I didn't. I gasped. You will. It's in your blood now. They've marked you. He shoved me forward, down the hall. Go. Run. Don't stop until dawn. I staggered, half believing, half doubting. When I looked back he was gone. But the scratches on my arm burned like fire. Dawn. When I stumbled outside, the sun blinding, Kavanaugh wasn't at the gate. The guard shack was empty. Only a cigarette burned in the ashtray. Fresh. Still smoking. I'm marked. I know it now. The first touch broke me. And I don't know how many nights I have left before I stop running and start dancing. By the 7th night, I realized I couldn't trust myself. Not my hands. Not my legs. Not even my memory. Because the Maenads had found their way inside my skull. 11:50 p.m. The first gap. I was in the office, scribbling notes, whispering rules under my breath. The desk lamp flickered once. And then. I was in the East Wing. I don't know how. No memory of walking there. No memory of opening the door. I stood among the iron beds, the breathing bodies, the dripping vines. My flashlight was on, beam steady in my hand. And I was humming. Low, rhythmic, steady. It took me a second to realize it wasn't the building this time. It was me. I clapped my hands over my mouth, dropped the light, bolted. When I reached the main hall, the door slammed shut behind me. 12:30 a.m. The mirror. There are no mirrors in Greystone. But sometimes glass shines too bright. I passed a cracked observation window near the seclusion rooms. My reflection looked back. Except it wasn't right. Her hair was tangled, leaves knotted in it. Her teeth were sharp. Her eyes were gold. She smiled. I didn't. And then she moved when I didn't. The glass spidered, cracks racing out like veins, and my reflection whispered. You're one of us already. 1:15 a.m. The blackout again. I was writing in the journal. Trying to record every second. I blinked. Next thing I knew, I was on the second floor, standing in front of the murals. But this time the women weren't just leaning out. They were missing. The painted space where they'd been was blank plaster, wet, dripping. And faint footprints trailed down the hall. Bare. Bloody. I looked down. My own feet were bare. My socks soaked red. I don't remember taking my boots off. 2 a.m. The bottles sing. The lounge door rattled before I opened it. Inside dozens of bottles stood in neat rows. Not random anymore. Arranged like an orchestra. They hummed. Each at a different pitch. Low, high, sharp, deep. Together they made a chord. And my body swayed. I bit my tongue. Hard. Tasted blood. Tried to back away. But I blacked out again. When I came to, my lips were wet. My throat burned sweet. One of the bottles lay empty at my feet. I had drunk. 3 a.m. The frenzy inside. The corridor flickered again. Torches, forest, drums. The Maenads circled, laughing. Their hair whipped wild. They stamped their feet. And I wasn't watching this time. I was in the circle. My legs moved without asking. My hands tore at the air. My throat shouted words in a language I didn't know. Evo. Evo. The frenzy filled me. It felt good. Too good. Then pain. Sharp. Hot. My shoulder burning. A Maenad bit me. The forest snapped back into Tile Hall. I was on my knees, gasping, clutching my shoulder. No blood. No wound. Just fire under the skin. 4 a.m. The return. I stumbled to the stairwell, half dead, half drunk, half mad. The voice came again. You've already joined. I whispered back before I could stop myself, no. The stairwell shook. The rules broke. The voice laughed. And then silence. Dawn. I woke up in the grass outside the gate. Boots gone. Shirt torn. My lips stained purple. Kavanaugh stood over me, jaw tight, eyes like stone. You've started, he said. I wanted to ask what he meant. But I already knew. I've drunk. I've danced. I've lost time. And there's no going back. By the 8th night, I couldn't tell where my skin ended and theirs began. 11:40 p.m. the first scratch. I peeled off my jacket and froze. 3 scratches ran across my chest. Deep. Clean. Parallel. They weren't there when I left home. They weren't there when I checked myself at the gate. But they were here now. The journal sat open on the desk. A new line had appeared in handwriting that wasn't mine. The marks are gifts. Wear them. I slammed the book shut. My hands shook so bad I almost dropped it. 12:15 a.m. the chant. The humming started again, but lower this time. More deliberate. Then words threaded through the pipes, soft at first, rising. Evo. 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 It wasn't random anymore. It was a song. And my lips moved without me. Whispering. Matching. I bit down until blood filled my mouth, but the chant still slipped out between my teeth. 12:45 a.m. the blackout. I was in the lounge. Or I thought I was. Then blink. I was in the East Wing again. Beds lined with bodies. Vines dripping wine. One of them sat up. Eyes rolled back white. Mouth open. And in my own voice, it said, "You don't fight as hard as you think you do." I ran. When I looked back, every body on every bed had turned its head to watch me leave. 1:30 a.m. the bruises. I came to in the stairwell, back against the cold wall. I lifted my sleeve. My arms were covered in bruises. Fingerprints. Dozens. Around my biceps. My wrists. My throat. Hands had held me. Too many to count. But I didn't remember it. 2 a.m. the corridor again. The flicker came. Forest. Drums. This time I didn't fight. My legs moved. My arms swung. I danced. A Maenad brushed past me, her shoulder slamming mine. Her hair reeked of smoke and sweat. She whispered, almost. And then she was gone. The corridor snapped back. I collapsed, laughing and crying at once, bile rising in my throat. 2:45 a.m. the voice changes. The stairwell voice returned. But this time it wasn't my voice. It was Kavanaugh's. "You think you'll survive this? You think the rules matter?" I clenched my jaw. Didn't answer. But the voice laughed, same as always. 3:15 a.m. the writing. Back in the office, I opened the journal again. Another message scrawled inside, the ink still wet. "You are marked. You belong to Dionysus now." I traced the letters with shaking fingers. The page reeked of wine. I didn't write it. But the handwriting looked more like mine every night. 4 a.m. the mirror again. On my way out, I passed the cracked glass. This time my reflection didn't smile. It raised its hands. And in its palms were bloody grapes, crushed, dripping. It pressed them to the glass. Juice smeared. And when I looked down at my real hands they were stained purple. Dawn. Kavanaugh was waiting this time. Same spot. Cigarette smoldering. He looked me over once, eyes catching the bruises peeking from my collar. "You're further than I thought," he muttered. "What does that mean?" I asked. He didn't answer. Just flicked ash, turned away. But under his sleeve, as he shifted, I saw them. Scars. Parallel. Just like mine. The Maenads don't just haunt this place. They live through us. And I think Kavanaugh's been living for them longer than I can imagine. By the 9th night, I stopped asking if I'd make it to dawn. The real question was who I'd be when the sun came up. 11:30 p.m. The first awakening. I woke standing in the corridor. Not lying down. Not sitting. Standing. My boots were gone. My feet were bare, smeared with mud. I had no memory of how I got there. The journal was in my hand, open to a page I didn't write. Dance until the world bleeds. 12:10 a.m. The hands. In the office bathroom, I turned on the faucet to wash the dirt away. That's when I saw it. My fingernails were packed with something dark. Clotted. I scraped it out with the knife I kept in my pocket. It smeared across the blade. Not mud. Not dirt. Blood. And tiny scraps of flesh. I gagged. Dropped the knife in the sink. The drain gurgled like it was drinking. 12:45 a.m. The corridor flicker. The hall stuttered into forest again. But this time I wasn't just watching the Maenads tear someone apart. I was with them. My mouth was wet. My throat raw from screaming. My chest heaving with the rhythm. Something heavy dangled from my hand. A piece of meat. I threw it when I realized what it was. The women shrieked with joy, pounced on it, tore it to pieces. The flicker snapped back. I was alone. Except for the blood spray on my shirt. 1:30 a.m. The East Wing. The door opened on its own again. I swore I wouldn't go in. But the blackout pulled me through. When I came to, I was at the far end of the ward. The beds empty. The vines dry. Every body gone. And on the floor, a ring of footprints. Bare. Purple stained. All pointing inward. I was standing in the center. 2:15 a.m. The voice splits. The stairwell voice returned. But it wasn't one voice this time. It was dozens. Men. Women. Children. They all spoke at once, overlapping, chanting my name. I covered my ears. The sound crawled inside anyway. You are ours. You carry him. You bleed for us. I screamed until my throat tore raw. When I opened my eyes, my reflection in the stairwell window was smiling. Teeth too sharp. 3 a.m. The frenzy. The drums hit. Hard. No flicker this time. No forest. The frenzy erupted inside me, right there in the hall. My body convulsed, arms flailing, legs stomping. My head snapped back, jaw unhinged. I couldn't stop. My nails split as I clawed the walls. Paint and plaster flew. My knuckles cracked, but the rhythm pushed harder. I tasted copper. Salt. Wine. And when the convulsions eased, I found myself holding something in my hand. A tooth. Human. 3:45 a.m. The laughter. The bottles in the lounge rattled again, but not with music. With laughter. They rolled across the floor, clinking, clattering. Some shattered. And in the shards I saw myself dancing. Naked. Wild. Covered in blood not mine. The shards vibrated. My reflection screamed. And then every bottle exploded at once. I staggered back, arms cut to ribbons, glass stuck in my skin. But I couldn't even bleed. Not one drop. 4 a.m. The collapse. I woke on the stairwell floor. Kavanaugh crouched over me, shaking my shoulder. His eyes were hollow. "They've got you," he muttered. "You're already halfway." I croaked, voice shredded, "Halfway to what?" He didn't answer. Just shoved a cigarette between his lips, lit it with shaking hands. When he exhaled, the smoke curled into shapes. Women. Dancing. Laughing. Dawn. I staggered out, clothes shredded, glass still stuck in my arms. The air smelled wrong. Sweet. Overripe. The sun looked too red. And under my nails, even after scrubbing, the blood stayed. The Maenads aren't waiting anymore. They're moving through me. And I think next time, I won't wake up alone. 11 p.m. The smell of grapes. The smell started before the lights failed. Sweet. Fermented. Like grape skins left in the sun. I gagged, because it didn't belong here, not in Greystone's halls that always smelled like mildew and antiseptic. The stench clung to me, sticky and sweet. Every breath tasted purple. That's when I realized, the frenzy was coming early tonight. 11:45 p.m. Kavanaugh's warning. Kavanaugh waited for me outside the east wing door. He hadn't done that before. His face was hollow, his eyes shot through with red veins. He looked like a man already dead. "You're theirs now," he said. No preamble. "The only question is how long you'll keep pretending you're not." I snapped, "Pretending what?" He leaned close, cigarette smoke curling between us. His voice cracked. "You think you black out? That's not sleep, kid. That's worship. You're leading the rites." My stomach turned to stone. 12:10 a.m. The first song. The walls themselves began to hum. Low, guttural, like 1,000 throats groaning at once. My teeth vibrated. My skull rattled. And then, as if someone tore a curtain open, music blasted into the corridor. Flutes. Drums. Screams braided into song. I dropped to my knees, palms over my ears. Didn't matter. It was inside me. Kavanaugh's voice cut through the cacophony, desperate. Rule 3. Don't sing with them. I hadn't planned to. But my mouth opened on its own. The song ripped out of me. 12:30 a.m. The procession. The flicker came, but it didn't fade back this time. The hospital was gone. I stood barefoot on pine needles. The forest was full of light torches, hundreds of them, weaving between the trees. The Maenads danced in a ring, hair wild, eyes shining white. And in the center, me. Or rather, something wearing me. A version of myself stripped naked, smeared in wine and blood, crowned with ivy. I staggered back, but the dancers pulled me into their circle. "Evo," they cried. "Evo." The chant pounded against my ribs. 1:15 a.m. The frenzy splits. The frenzy didn't just shake me. It split me. Part of me was outside, watching. Part of me was inside, screaming through borrowed lungs. I clawed at the air, stomped the ground until my feet tore open. I laughed until my chest felt like it would break. I bit down on bark, wood splintering between my teeth. The Maenads shrieked in delight. And when I tore a branch from a tree, they pressed a body into my hands. A man, or what was left of him. Limbs slack, face slack. Kavanaugh. Except not quite. His eyes rolled white, unseeing, and when I struck him, the Maenads roared. 2 a.m. The return. I woke sprawled on the nurse's station floor, covered in sap and blood. Kavanaugh sat slumped against the wall, smoking. He looked untouched. But his voice rasped like broken glass, "Now you've seen it." I whispered, "I killed you." He laughed without humor. Coughed. Spat blood into his handkerchief. "You tried. They let me up. They always let me up. 'Cause I was first." I stared. My mouth dry. "First what?" He flicked ash onto the tiles. Didn't meet my eyes. "First priest." 2:45 a.m. The hidden room. Kavanaugh led me, limping, down a hallway I swore was bricked off before. Behind a rusted metal door lay a chapel. Not Christian. The walls were carved with vines and wild women, their stone mouths frozen mid-scream. At the center, a marble basin filled with dark, fermented liquid. Wine, I croaked. Kavanaugh shook his head. Blood. Every drop spilled here since the wards opened. They mix it. Offer it. The basin shuddered. Ripples spread across its surface though nothing touched it. From its depths, I heard laughter. 3:20 a.m. His confession. Kavanaugh lit another cigarette with trembling fingers. They built Greystone on a bad foundation. Not just limestone. Not just state money. Dionysian ground. You understand? This was a worship site. Long before Jersey was Jersey. I swallowed, throat burning. And the Maenads? He met my eyes for the first time. His were wet, rimmed red. They come where the rites are kept. Where frenzy can grow. And Greystone, well, nothing frenzies like a madhouse. He coughed blood again, wiped it away. I made the deal. I kept them fed. I taught the rules. And every guard after me got the same curse. Including you. 4 a.m. The coronation. The flutes began again. But this time, they weren't muffled. They blared through the PA system. Every light in the hospital pulsed red, on and off, in rhythm. Kavanaugh grabbed my arm, hissed, "It's your turn." The floor trembled. The vines in the east wing writhed. And in the chapel basin, something rose. Not a woman. Not a man. Something in between, crowned with ivy, dripping red. Its voice was a chorus, our vessel. Our priest. Our Dionysus. I staggered back, but the walls closed in. Kavanaugh shoved me forward. Better you than me. Dawn. The sun broke, pale and red. I crawled out into the field behind the hospital, shirt shredded, chest branded with a circle of bruises shaped like teeth. The voices were still singing inside my skull. And I knew one thing with certainty. I wasn't just guarding the hospital anymore. I was leading its rites. 6:30 a.m. No release. I waited for the voices to stop. They didn't. Dawn usually peeled the frenzy off me like a wet skin. Not today. When the sunlight hit Greystone's windows, the song only grew louder. I tried to scrub the taste of wine from my mouth in the bathroom sink. Red swirled down the drain. Not wine. Not grape. Blood. Mine. Someone else's. Couldn't tell. And for the first time since I started, the rules didn't matter. No shadows retreated. No corridors stilled. The Maenads stayed. 8:15 a.m. The lapse. The first lapse came while I was sweeping glass from the nurse's station. One blink I was there, broom in hand. Next blink the floor was spotless, broom snapped in two, my hands dripping red. And a trail of bloody footprints led away, back into the east wing. I followed. I had to. Inside, the vines writhed in daylight. Something wet clung to their leaves. Flesh. 10 a.m. The bodies. 2 maintenance men were scheduled to check wiring that morning. I found one in the courtyard. His body twisted, ribs cracked open like someone had pried him apart with bare hands. The other? Gone. Only his hard hat left in a puddle of wine-dark liquid. Kavanaugh didn't come out to look. He sat smoking in the security booth, eyes dead, muttering under his breath. When I shouted at him, he only said, "This is what happens when the rules break. They don't leave with the night anymore. They stay as long as they want." I realized what he wasn't saying. They wanted me. 1:30 p.m. The blackout. The next lapse lasted hours. I remember holding a mop in the cafeteria. Then, nothing. When I woke, the room was wrecked. Tables overturned. Trays scattered. Smears of red across every wall. And carved into the tile, with something sharp and human-sized. Evo. The Greek cry. The Bakshik shout. My own handwriting. 3 p.m. The mirror. In the staff locker room, I faced the cracked mirror. The reflection didn't move with me. It moved faster. It danced. Head thrown back, mouth wide, teeth too sharp. My chest was smeared with bruises shaped like hands gripping hard. When I pressed my palms against the glass, the reflection leaned close, whispered. You are the vine. We grow through you. The glass spiderwebbed under my touch. When it shattered, my reflection stayed behind, grinning in the shards. 5:45 p.m. The chorus. I heard them in daylight. Not whispers. Not chants. Laughter. The sound came from every corridor. From the air vents. From the light fixtures. It followed me no matter where I ran. Every shadow, even in the bright afternoon sun, stretched too long, bending like dancers' limbs. And every stretch ended in fingers. Grabbing. Reaching. Waiting. 7 p.m. Kavanaugh's bargain. He finally came to me. Dragged me into the booth, shut the door, locked it. They won't stop now, he said. His voice cracked with fear. You're the vessel. I was only ever the caretaker. But you. He jabbed a trembling finger at my chest. They crowned you. I shouted, how do I stop it? He shook his head. Lit another cigarette. Didn't meet my eyes. You don't. You just learn the steps. Or you burn out. His hand shook so bad the ash fell onto his shirt. He didn't brush it off. And then he whispered something I'll never forget. They don't want Greystone anymore. They want the whole damn state. 9 p.m. The endless night. The sun dipped. Usually that meant release. Relief. A false safety. But the voices only swelled, flutes shrieking through the pipes, drums hammering in my skull. And outside the barred windows, torchlight flickered in the fields. Too many torches. Hundreds. Figures danced around Greystone's shell. Some wore crowns of ivy. Some dragged carcasses. Some looked like people I recognized: guards, staff, the missing. The Maenads weren't just inside anymore. They were everywhere. Midnight the priest. I blacked out again. When I woke, I was standing on a makeshift altar in the courtyard, Greystone looming behind me. Torches ringed the yard. The Maenads swayed and shrieked. And Kavanaugh knelt at my feet. Not smoking. Not muttering. Kneeling. His voice hoarse, hail the new priest. They roared, tearing branches, tearing flesh, stamping the ground until it shook. And I knew. Day or night, rules or not, I belonged to them now. Dawn no escape. When the sun rose, nothing changed. The laughter stayed. The bruises deepened. The chorus kept singing inside my skull. I wasn't just guarding Greystone. I was Greystone. The vines grew in my veins. And the Maenads whispered one word, over and over, until it carved itself into my bones. Evo. 7 a.m. The knock. I didn't expect anyone at the gate. Nobody ever came. But there they were. 2 squad cars parked at the rusted entrance, lights still spinning. A sheriff's deputy leaned against the fence, trying to look casual, but his eyes darted everywhere. Beside him stood a woman in a neat blazer, holding a clipboard. State inspector, maybe. They were here for me. For Greystone. And I knew before they spoke the Maenads were already watching. 7:15 a.m. The questions. The woman called herself Ms. Calder. She asked about the noise complaints. The lights at night. The music. I told her it was kids. Teenagers sneaking in. Playing pranks. She scribbled notes, lips pursed. Didn't believe me. The deputy just kept staring at the vines that crawled up Greystone's walls. His mouth worked like he was chewing words he couldn't spit out. Finally, he muttered, "Those plants, they're moving." Calder snapped at him to focus. But he wasn't wrong. 8:30 a.m. The invitation. I should have kept them out. Should have sent them away. But the Maenads whispered, "Let them in." And before I knew it, I'd unlocked the gate. The deputy crossed first. Boots crunching on gravel. Hand near his gun, though it wouldn't matter. Calder followed, still jotting notes, muttering about structural safety and liability. Kavanaugh didn't come out of the booth. He just watched, face pale, cigarette shaking between his lips. 9 a.m. The first lapse. One blink we were standing in the main corridor. Next blink the deputy was gone. Calder spun, furious. "Where's Officer Grant?" Her voice echoed too loud, like the walls were hollow. Then I heard it, faint flute music, coming from the east wing. I tried to tell her not to go. My mouth opened. But the Maenads laughed inside me, and all that came out was, "Follow the song." 9:30 a.m. The east wing. We found him in the vines. Not dead. Worse. His arms were spread wide, wrists buried deep in tendrils. His head tilted back, eyes rolled white. He was smiling. Every so often, his body jerked like he was dancing against invisible strings. Calder screamed. Grabbed my arm. Demanded we cut him loose. But the vines had already grown through him. His chest rose and fell with the rhythm of drums I couldn't hear. He was theirs. 10:15 a.m. The argument. Calder shoved me against the wall. "What the hell is happening here?" I stammered. Tried to tell her it was the building, the ground, the Maenads. She slapped me. Hard. Speak sense. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But the frenzy surged in my chest, laughter bubbling up instead of words. Kavanaugh's voice cut through the hall, "He can't explain it. None of us can. You came too close. You're marked now." Calder turned on him, eyes blazing. "Who the hell are you?" His face twisted. The last man who thought he could keep them caged. Noon. The vanishing. Calder tried to leave. She stormed back toward the gate. The corridor shifted. Greystone does that sometimes. Every turn took her deeper instead of out. Her heels clicked faster, panic breaking through her professional mask. I followed, helpless. When she finally opened a door, it wasn't daylight waiting. It was forest. I saw torches. Heard screams. She stumbled forward, and the door slammed shut behind her. Gone. 2 p.m. The drums outside. From the booth, I watched through the barred windows. Cars were parking along the road. Locals, curious about the sirens and patrol cars. They gathered at the fence. Some shouted. Some pointed. Then the drums started. Not inside this time. Outside. The crowd swayed, confused, like they were drunk without drinking. A few started laughing, tossing their heads back. Others screamed and ran. But not far. The vines caught them. 4:30 p.m. Kavanaugh's truth. He found me shaking in the nurse's station, my hands sticky with blood I didn't remember spilling. "You see now," he rasped. "It spreads. Always spreads. They don't stay caged forever." I begged, how do we stop it? He laughed until he coughed red into his handkerchief. Stop it? Boy, you feed it. You dance, you bleed, you buy yourself a little more time. That's all there is. His eyes burned into mine. You think I'm alive, 'cause I'm strong? No. I'm alive, 'cause I learned to keep the wine flowing. 6 p.m. the procession begins. The sun dipped. Dozens of torches glowed at the fence line. Figures swayed, stomping, chanting. Some wore uniforms. Some wore business suits. Some wore nothing at all. The frenzy had spread into the town. Greystone wasn't just a prison anymore. It was a temple. And I was standing at its altar, crown invisible but heavy as bone. Midnight the chant. The maenads filled the corridors. I couldn't tell where the hospital ended and the forest began. Every surface pulsed like a vein. Every shadow reached like a hand. And all of them chanted my name. I screamed until my throat tore, but the sound came back to me in 100 voices, echoing. You are ours. You are the vine. You are the God. And I knew, in the marrow of me, the outside world wasn't coming to save me. The outside world was next. 6:30 a.m. the walls breathe. I woke to the sound of breathing. Not mine. Not Kavanaugh's. The walls themselves swelled and contracted, plaster groaning like lungs. Each inhale sucked the air from my chest. Each exhale filled the hall with the sour reek of grapes. When I pressed my palm against the paint, it pulsed. Warm. Wet. Beating like a heart. The maenads whispered, you are inside us. We are inside you. 7:15 a.m. the feeding. Kavanaugh dragged in a box. Cans of soup. Boxes of crackers. A bottle of water. He set them at my feet without looking at me. I asked where he got them. He muttered, don't ask questions you don't want answered. When I pressed, he snapped, you think food just comes here? You think I haven't been trading? Offering? His eyes darted to the east wing. His lips curled into a bitter smile. They don't need much. Just a body now and then. Keeps the frenzy soft. My stomach turned. I didn't ask again. 9 a.m. the laughter. Every corridor rang with laughter. Not human. Too layered. Too sharp. It cracked like glass, rolled like thunder, rattled like bones. I shoved my fingers into my ears. Didn't matter. The sound lived inside me now. At the edge of my vision, I caught the moving white eyes, wild hair, skirts torn, feet bare and bleeding. They darted in and out of rooms, giggling, tearing at the vines, smearing themselves with sap and red. Kavanaugh muttered, ignore them. But how do you ignore what's in your blood? 11:30 a.m. the teeth. I felt something in my gums. At first, I thought it was a loose filling. I worked it with my tongue. And then something cracked. A tooth fell out. Blood filled my mouth. I spat it into my hand. It wasn't my tooth. Too sharp. Too long. A fawn. Kavanaugh didn't even flinch when I showed him. Just said, told you. You're theirs now. 1 p.m. the chapel again. The basin in the hidden chapel was full to the brim. Dark liquid shimmered, red and purple at once. I swore I saw faces moving under the surface. Mouths opening and closing. Silent screams. Kavanaugh stood by it, staring like a man watching a fire. They'll crown you here, he said. Not out there. Here. Where it started. His voice cracked. He pressed a hand to his chest. Used to think I'd be the one. But I was only ever their doorkeeper. He turned on me, eyes blazing with something between envy and hate. And you're the god. 3:30 p.m. The frenzy in my blood. I tried to rest. But the frenzy wouldn't let me. My limbs twitched. My feet stomped against the floor in rhythm I didn't choose. I beat my chest with my fists until bruises bloomed. I laughed until my throat tore. The Maenads cheered inside me, their voices rising like a storm. When I came to, my fingernails were torn off, and the walls around me were smeared red with spirals. My spirals. 5:45 p.m. The mask. Kavanaugh entered the station carrying something wrapped in cloth. He set it on the desk. Unwrapped it slow. A mask. Made of wood, cracked and painted white. The mouth stretched too wide. The eyes hollow. Every priest wears one, he whispered. Hides the man. Shows the god. He pushed it toward me. I shoved it back. His laugh was low and broken. Don't matter. You'll wear it when they tell you to. 8 p.m. The hunt. The vines rustled. From deep in the east wing, I heard screams. Not Maenad screams. Human. I ran. Against my better judgment, I ran. Found a man in a delivery uniform tangled in tendrils. His truck must have broken the gate. He begged me to help. His eyes were wide, wild, real. I tried. I swear I tried. But my hands didn't listen. They gripped the vines and pulled tighter. The Maenads shrieked with joy as the man disappeared into the leaves, body snapping like sticks. When it was over, my palms were raw. Kavanaugh watched from the shadows. Didn't move. Didn't help. Only whispered, now you're learning. Midnight the coronation rehearsal. The torches lit themselves. The vines beat like drums. The Maenads poured into the courtyard, their eyes shining white, their mouths stretched too wide. They lifted me on their shoulders. My head slammed against the ceiling tiles as they carried me. I screamed. They roared louder. Kavanaugh stood by the chapel door, mask in hand, cigarette glowing. His eyes locked on mine. Soon, he mouthed. Dawn no dawn. I waited for the sun. It rose. Pale and red. But nothing changed. The frenzy stayed. The song stayed. The Maenad stayed. And inside me, something had taken root. Something that laughed when I cried. The god. And he was hungry. 6 a.m. The mirror. There's no mirror in my room. Haven't been any since they sealed Greystone for good. But this morning, when I rolled over, I saw myself anyway. Not in glass. In the wall. The paint had bubbled outward, slick like resin, and caught the light. It made a surface just reflective enough to throw my face back at me. Only it wasn't my face. The eyes were too wide. The mouth curled into something feral. And behind it a crown of ivy. I blinked. The wall went flat. But the crown stayed in my head. 7:45 a.m. Kavanaugh's bargain. Kavanaugh poured whiskey into his coffee like it was water. He sat across from me, mask on the table between us. They're ready, he said. The coronation's coming. You can fight it all you want, but they don't stop. They've waited decades. I asked what he got out of this. He laughed. Bitter, hollow. Kept me alive. Kept me from the vines. You think I'm priest? Nah. I'm caretaker. Janitor. Keeper of the rules. His hands shook as he lit a cigarette. But don't think that's nothing. You break the wrong one, I pay. Always me. He leaned forward, voice low, eyes burning. So here's the bargain. Wear the mask. Take the gods' weight. Let them crown you. And maybe I get to rest. 9:15 a.m. The hidden rule. While he slept in his chair, I rifled through his desk. I found pages torn from a ledger. Not typed, not official. Handwritten. At the bottom, scrawled in red. Rule 7: if you wear the mask, you cannot take it off until blood is spilled. The words shook in my hands. There it was. The hidden rule. Not written on the sheet they gave me my first day. This one was for priests only. I shoved it back before he stirred. But the words stuck in my brain. Blood is the only key. 11 a.m. The Maenads choir. The east wing opened itself. Doors banged wide down the hall, one after another, until the corridor was a tunnel of darkness. From inside poured sound 1,000 voices chanting, rising, fracturing. The Maenads lined the walls, their white eyes unblinking. They stomped their feet in rhythm. They slapped their chests. They pulled at their hair until their scalps bled. All for me. At the far end, the vines writhed into a throne. And on the seat, the mask waited. 1:30 p.m. The seizure. I collapsed. No warning. My body just gave out. On the ground, I thrashed, convulsed. Foam at my lips, eyes rolled back. But inside, I wasn't dying. Inside, I was running. Running through forests I'd never seen. Running with women in torn dresses, hair wild, teeth sharp. I knew their names without learning them. Agave. Autono. Eno. Maenads of Thebes. The ones who tore apart their king. They circled me, chanting. Not English. Not Greek. Something older, heavier. They shoved the mask into my hands. And when I put it on in the vision, the seizure stopped. 4 p.m. The test. Kavanaugh stood at the chapel door, mask dangling from his hand. He didn't ask. He didn't beg. He just said, if you're gonna survive tonight, you wear it. I told him I read the hidden rule. He froze. His mouth twitched. Then he whispered, so you know. It's never just ceremony. It's sacrifice. His eyes glistened. Pray it ain't you. 7 p.m. The trial by Vine. They dragged me to the courtyard. Not Kavanaugh the Maenads. Their hands gripped like iron, nails tearing into my skin. They held me down. The vines surged up from the cracks in the concrete, wrapping my arms, my throat, my chest. One tendril slithered across my face, pressing the mask against me. I tried to resist. I swear I tried. But the vines didn't ask. They forced it onto my face. The wood burned. It seared my skin. And when it locked in place, I screamed. The Maenads howled with joy. Midnight the first blood. Through the mask, the world bent. Colors bled. Sound cracked. The air vibrated with rhythm. I saw veins under the concrete. Pulses under the walls. I saw the world as the god sees it. Kavanaugh stood at the edge, shaking, pale. The Maenads shoved a man forward, a stranger, maybe another unlucky driver who wandered in. They forced him to his knees before me. The vines placed a shard of glass in my hand. The hidden rule rang in my head, if you wear the mask, you cannot take it off until blood is spilled. The Maenads chanted. The vines tightened. The mask laughed in my skull. And the man begged. I raised the shard. 12:05 a.m. The mask speaks. The mask didn't sit on my face. It rooted. Wood sank into skin. Splinters became nerves. Every breath rasped through painted lips, not mine. And the voice began. Not in my ears. In the bone of my skull. Smooth, male, mocking. Blood is the lock. Blood is the key. Spill it, and you will see. The stranger knelt before me, trembling. The Maenads pounded their fists against the ground in rhythm, chanting a name I didn't know but somehow understood. Dionysus. 12:10 a.m. The decision. The shard of glass was heavy in my hand. Too heavy for glass. Like metal, like stone. The vines around my wrist pulsed. Tightened. Urged. I could feel the mask waiting. But there was another pull, quiet, almost swallowed by the frenzy. Kavanaugh's eyes. Wide. Wet. Not pleading for the man. Pleading for me. 12:12 a.m. The loophole. The rule was simple. Brutal. Blood must be spilled. But it didn't say whose. The thought hit like lightning. I slashed the shard across my own palm. Blood welled, hot and bright, dripping to the concrete. The vines recoiled, hissing. The Maenads shrieked, confusion splitting their chant. The mask shuddered, as though trying to tear itself free. Then it laughed. Clever. Clever little priest. 12:20 a.m. The frenzy's backlash. The Maenads lunged. Their teeth snapped inches from my face. Hands clawed my shoulders, my chest, my bleeding palm. But the vines held them back. They weren't angry at me. They were hungry. My blood on the concrete seeped into the cracks, into the roots. The entire courtyard groaned. The walls bowed inward. And the building drank me. 1 a.m. The asylum awakens. Greystone isn't just brick and mortar. Not anymore. Every hallway pulsed with my heartbeat. Every locked door rattled in rhythm with my breath. I saw through the walls. Every shadow. Every rat. Every Maenad waiting in her corner. They saw me too. Kavanaugh whispered from the chapel doorway. You did it, kid. You fed it yourself. You belong to it now. 2:30 a.m. The betrayal. The vines loosened. The shard slipped from my fingers. The mask burned hotter. Fused deeper. And then betrayal. The Maenad surged past me, toward Kavanaugh. He staggered back, hands up, shouting. No. He's the one. I kept the rules, I kept them. Didn't matter. They fell on him. A dozen white eyes. A dozen clawing hands. His scream was swallowed in vines. When they pulled back, there was nothing left but scraps of cloth and the echo of his last word. Please. 4 a.m. Alone with the god. The Maenads left me standing. Blood on my palm. Mask on my face. Vines coiled around my legs but not crushing. I was theirs. But not destroyed. Not yet. The voice of the god hummed through my skull, satisfied. One rule broken. One rule bent. Let us see how far you'll go, priest. Dawn, the town in sight. The night passed in fever. When the red sun cracked over the horizon, the vines shifted. The doors to Greystone swung wide, groaning on ancient hinges. And beyond the threshold, I saw it. Morristown. Streets. Houses. People on their morning commute. The Maenads stirred behind me. Hungry. Excited. The mask tightened. Take us to them. 6:15 a.m. The choice. The asylum doors stood open for the first time since I arrived. Outside, morning traffic, the hum of ordinary life, sunlight spilling across streets that had never seen what I had. Behind me, the Maenads, writhing, snarling, restless. Their white eyes fixed on my back like arrows. The mask whispered. You cannot stay. The hunger moves outward. If you do not lead them, they will find another way. I told myself I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be the shepherd of slaughter. But the vines at my ankles tugged. Forward. Always forward. 7 a.m. The rule keeper's absence. Kavanaugh was gone. Torn apart, swallowed. Without him, there was no one reciting the rules, no one scribbling updates in a ledger. The asylum felt looser. Unmoored. Every corridor groaned like a ship without a captain. The rules still hummed in my head, but they flickered now, like bad radio static. That terrified me more than anything. The rules had been my lifeline. And now they were failing. 8:20 a.m. The gates. We reached the iron gates. I didn't remember walking there. The Maenads carried me on a tide of shrieks and stomping feet. The gates were twisted with vines so thick the bars disappeared. But the vines moved aside as I approached, unfurling like curtains. Beyond, the highway. Cars streaming past. A jogger. A school bus slowing at a stop. The mask chuckled. Blood waits everywhere. Take us. 9 a.m. The first spill outside. A deer stood at the tree lean, frozen. The Maenads pounced. They tore it down in seconds, teeth and nails ripping flesh, white eyes gleaming. I tried to look away, but the mask forced my gaze. The rule's echo came back, blood must be spilled. The Maenads shrieked in triumph, holding up strips of meat, faces dripping red. And then they looked at me, waiting. The mask whispered, not enough. Not human. 11:30 a.m. The first witness. A man slowed his truck near the gate, gawking at the vines. He leaned out, snapping pictures on his phone. He never saw them coming. The Maenads swarmed him, yanking him from the cab, devouring his screams. Blood sprayed across the hood of the truck. The vines shivered in delight. And the mask pulsed against my face. Hot. Hungry. My stomach twisted. I should have run then. Should have torn the mask off, rule be damned. But it wouldn't let go. 2 p.m. The procession. We marched. Me at the front, the Maenads flanking me, barefoot and bloodied, their laughter splitting the air. Cars honked, swerved, skidded into ditches. Some people fled. Some froze. Those who froze were taken. The vines spread behind us, cracking pavement, splitting asphalt. Every street we touched warped. The asylum wasn't left behind. It was following us. 4:30 p.m. The loophole burns. The wound on my palm, the one I used to satisfy the hidden rule, wouldn't stop bleeding. It dripped down my wrist, stained my clothes, left a trail on the road. The Maenads bent to lick it from the concrete, moaning like addicts. I realized then, my loophole hadn't saved me. It had fed them. And now they wanted more. 6 p.m. The town in sight. We crested the hill. Morristown sprawled below, neat rows of houses, traffic lights glowing red and green, people carrying groceries, kids on bikes. All of it unaware. The Maenads roared. The vines shuddered. The mask whispered. Tonight, priest. Tonight, the town will dance. 7 p.m. The descent. The hill sloped down into Morristown streets. I could smell frying onions, hot asphalt, a bakery venting sweet air into the evening. Normal life. A world that didn't know me, didn't know what I'd brought. The Maenads swayed behind me, dozens now, maybe more. Bare feet slapping pavement, hair matted with blood. From a distance, maybe they looked like stragglers from a festival. Up close, their white eyes gave them away. The mask chuckled against my face. Every town becomes Thebes, sooner or later. 7:30 p.m. The first door. They stopped outside a ranch house. Lights glowed in the windows. A TV murmured inside. A family at dinner. The Maenads pressed close to me, lips near my ears, breath hot. "Open it, priest. Open the door." I froze. The mask heated, burned my cheeks, hissed, "Blood. Now." But then luck. The family dog barked, loud and sudden. The Maenads shrieked back, stumbled. Dogs, I realized, rattled them. The vines recoiled too. The door never opened. The family never knew how close they came. 8 p.m. The churchyard. They herded me past a brick church. Wednesday night service, maybe a youth group. Cars in the lot, voices singing faint hymns. The Maenads slowed. Confused. The hymn cut through them like static, throwing their rhythm off. Some clutched their ears. Others hissed and spat. The vines around the churchyard blackened, retreating from the stained glass. And for a moment, I wasn't a prisoner. I was just a man, watching wild things falter. But the mask whispered, low and hot. "They will tear it down when they are ready." 9:15 p.m. The bar on South Street. Laughter spilled from a bar door as it swung open. A group of young guys stumbled out, loud, drunk, oblivious. They saw the Maenads. Thought it was a joke. "Costume party," one of them slurred. The Maenads didn't laugh. They swarmed. The men never had a chance. Their shouts turned to screams, screams to silence. When it was over, the Maenads smeared themselves in blood and staggered on, singing in a dozen broken voices. No one inside the bar noticed. The door had shut. The music swallowed the horror whole. 10:30 p.m. The house with the porch light. We passed a house where the porch light flickered. A woman sat in a rocking chair, smoking, staring straight at me. She didn't scream. Didn't run. She just nodded, slow. The Maenads froze, wary. She whispered something too soft for me to hear and spat into the dirt. The vines curled away from her yard. The Maenads dragged me past, uneasy. The mask pulsed. There are always those who remember. They will not save you. Midnight the square. They gathered me in the town square, under the clock tower. The Maenads circled, stomping, shrieking, tearing at their hair. Vines split the pavement, coiling around benches, lampposts, mailboxes. I could see them spreading outward, toward the neighborhoods, the gas stations, the hospital. The mask tightened, cutting into my skin. "Here, priest. Here you crown us. Here the frenzy blooms." 12:30 a.m. The whisper of resistance. Over the roar, I heard something faint. Not a hymn. Not laughter. A voice. Human. Steady. "Don't let them bind it here." I spun. Saw a figure in the dark, an old man, face half hidden under a cap. His voice carried, "Keep them moving. Don't let the vines root. Once they root, the town's gone." And then he was swallowed by shadow. The Maenads hadn't seen him. The mask hissed, "Lies. All lies. Root us here." But I wasn't sure. 12:35 a.m. The circle tightens. The Maenads stomped in rhythm, harder, faster, cracking brick and stone. The vines surged upward, wrapping lampposts, bending them like straws. The mask squeezed my face, its voice inside me a boiling hiss. "Now. Place your hand. Let the blood sink. Let the god root." I clenched my bleeding palm shut. "Not yet. Not here." 12:40 a.m. The clock tower. The town clock told midnight. The sound threw the Maenads off beat for a second, their stomping uneven. I seized it. Shouted over them a voice not mine, booming through the mask. Not here. Not this ground. We move. The vines writhed, confused. The maenads faltered. The mask roared, defiance. But the clock's echo rolled over the square again, louder, and for a moment I felt the town itself push back. 12:55 a.m. The old man returns. From an alley, he appeared again. The one with the cap, face lined, eyes sharp. He carried something wrapped in cloth. Held it like it mattered. He hissed at me, "Keep them walking. Don't let the roots take." The maenads hadn't spotted him. Their eyes were fixed on me, wild, waiting for a sign. The mask whispered, low and venomous. "He lies. He's another keeper. Betrayer like Kavanaugh. Root us and silence him." I asked the man who he was. "Doesn't matter," he said. "What matters is the rules. They need ground. Don't give it to them." 1:10 a.m. The first split. The maenads started to fight each other. Some clawed at the ground, desperate to root the vines. Others swayed with me, pulling forward, hungry to spread. Their shrieks tore the night open. Nails in skin, teeth on flesh. The frenzy was eating itself. And through it, the mask screamed. "Choose. Choose or be torn apart." 1:30 a.m. The sacrifice of the square. The old man threw the cloth-wrapped object at my feet. It was a rusted hospital sign. Bent metal, letters faded but legible. Greystone Park. He snarled, "Anchor them here, they win. Carry it with you, they follow. The rules don't bind to places. They bind to names." The maenads froze at the sight. The vines hissed, recoiling. The mask seared against my skin, a furnace of rage. "Don't you touch it." But I bent. I picked it up. The second I did, the maenads screamed as one not in fury, but in rapture. They surged forward, dragging me with them, away from the square. The vines tore out of the concrete, leaving holes, scars, smoke. The square was spared. For now. 2 a.m. The procession south. We marched again, out of the square, down South Street. The maenads howled and danced, dragging claws against shop windows, overturning trash cans, splitting every light bulb above us. The vines slithered behind like serpents, but they didn't root. They waited. The mask hissed. "You delay. Delay is not defiance. You will run out of road." 3:15 a.m. The old man's warning. At the edge of town, the old man appeared once more, keeping his distance. "They'll need a coronation before dawn," he shouted. "If you keep them moving until sunrise, they lose their grip. That's the rule." The maenads shrieked at the sound of his voice. The vines quivered, trembling like an angry hive. The mask spat acid in my skull. "He lies. He always lies. There is no dawn." But I remembered the hidden rule. I remembered bleeding to feed them. And I knew, rules bend. Rules break. 4 a.m. The drag toward dawn. The maenads pulled me faster, harder, their frenzy mounting. Shadows deepened. Windows shattered. Lights failed. The town behind us was scarred but not yet consumed. And ahead only black road, forest, silence. The mask throbbed with fury. "One way or another, priest, you crown us before sunrise." I clenched the Greystone sign to my chest. And I prayed the old man was right. 4:15 a.m. The road turned strange. South Street thinned into dark road. Houses shrank back, then vanished. Forest pressed in on either side, branches arching overhead like ribs. The maenads dragged me forward, their feet never tiring. They shrieked and laughed, voices carrying through the trees. The vines hissed across asphalt, but they didn't root. They were waiting. The mask whispered like hot breath in my ear. Why fight? One cut of your palm on stone, and you could end this march. A throne grows where you bleed. A kingdom crowns. I kept my fist clenched tight around the rusted Greystone sign. My hand burned from the earlier wound. 4:30 a.m. the first trap. The trees parted. A farmhouse sat alone, windows lit, porch glowing warm. The maenads froze. They tilted their heads toward it like dogs catching a scent. I felt hunger swell in my gut, not mine theirs. The mask chuckled. The house will give us root. Fresh wood. A hearthstone to drink. I shook my head. Keep walking. But the maenads surged toward the porch, claws out, eyes wild. I had seconds to stop them. So I held up the Greystone sign. Shouted through the mask's voice. Not here. Greystone calls. Greystone waits. The maenads shrieked, shuddered, and turned. They wrenched me forward again, leaving the farmhouse untouched. Inside, I glimpsed a figure at the window, an old woman clutching a rosary, lips moving. She never looked at me, only at the vines slithering past. She knew. 4:50 a.m. the second trap. A road sign loomed out of the dark. Dead end. The maenads wailed in delight, pulling harder, eager to reach the wall of trees beyond. The mask laughed like breaking glass. Here. Here the roots will drink deepest. End of the road. End of the struggle. But then I saw him, the old man, standing under the sign, cap pulled low. Keep them walking, he called. There's always another road if you don't stop. The vines rattled against the pavement. The maenads clawed the dirt. I shoved the sign forward like a torch, screaming with a voice not mine. Greystone waits. Not here. The vines hissed, recoiled. The maenads turned in unison, dragging me down a side road I hadn't even noticed. The old man vanished. 5:10 a.m. the temptation. The mask grew hotter, searing into my cheek. My vision swam. It whispered. You're not saving them. You're feeding them. Every mile strengthens the vines. Every step binds you tighter. Do you think dawn will save you? Do you think light burns us? Fool. Dawn only crowns the strongest. For a moment, I believed it. I almost tore my hand open against the rusted sign, let the blood drip, let it root here and now. But then a sound. A whippoorwill calling in the trees. The same bird I'd heard outside Greystone, that first night. And with it, a rush of cold air. My head cleared. I kept walking. 5:25 a.m. the final trial. The road curved toward the hills. The maenads shrieked louder, frantic, sensing something close. Ahead a clearing. Stone pillars stood in a circle, black against the paling sky. The vines surged, hissing, desperate. The mask roared in triumph. Here. Here we root. Here we reign. The maenads dragged me forward, claws tearing my arms, my clothes. And in the clearing center the old man stood waiting. No cap now. No pretense. His face was hollow, gaunt, eyes burning too bright. Not mortal. Not anymore. He held out his hands. Give them to me, he said. I'll bear the crown. You can walk away free. The mask screamed with laughter. The maenads shrieked in ecstasy. The vines quivered, ready to pierce the earth. And behind it all the first pale light of dawn crept along the horizon. 5:30 a.m. the circle. The maenads dragged me into the clearing. 12 black pillars stood in a ring, carved from stone that didn't belong here. They pulsed faintly, like veins under skin. The vines hissed and coiled, wrapping the pillars, ready to root. The mask burned hotter than it ever had. My face felt flayed. Here. Here is the womb of the god. Bleed. The old man raised his hands, voice booming over the shrieks. They've walked long enough. Hand them over. The crown is mine. The Maenads shrieked louder, split down the middle, half clawing toward him, half toward me. 5:40 a.m. The bargain. I asked him what he was. His eyes blazed. I was like you. First hired hand. First keeper. I carried the mask once. I learned the rules. But I bent them. I bent them until they broke. The mask hissed. Liar. He was weak. He failed. The old man snarled back. I survived. That's more than most. He jabbed a finger at the pillars. These stones were dragged from Greece. Buried here when the hospital rose. They need a vessel. Give them me. Walk away alive. The Maenads howled, torn. The vines split the earth, cracks spidering. And above us the sky bled gray, the first hints of dawn. 5:50 a.m. The mask's fury. The mask screamed, shaking my skull. Kill him. Kill him now. He seeks your crown. Only one can wear it. Tear him and bleed. The old man laughed, voice ragged. You think you're chosen? You're just the mule hauling the vines. I've worn it. I know its weight. You'll break before you're crowned. The Maenads tore their own hair, shrieked at the sky, smashing their bodies against the pillars. The vines surged higher, wrapping us both in a tightening coil. 5:55 a.m. The choice. I felt the rusted Greystone sign in my hands, sharp edges biting into my palms. One path, give it to the old man, let him bear the frenzy, let the roots crown him. Another path, crown myself, end the march, but risk drowning in godhood. A third, stall them both, drag this to sunrise. If the old man was right, light would break their grip. The mask seared, whispering like a lover. Bleed. Bleed, and the world is ours. The old man stretched his hands wider. Do it. Give them me. End this before dawn robs you of power. The Maenads fell to their knees, screaming for coronation. 5:59 a.m. The last breath of night. The vines writhed, lifting me off the ground. The Maenads clawed upward, frenzy at its peak. The mask's voice became a roar that wasn't words, just pure hunger. The old man's eyes shone like burning coals. And on the horizon, the sun cracked the sky, one thin blade of light spilling across the clearing. The vines recoiled, smoking where the light touched. The Maenads shrieked in agony, covering their eyes, tearing at their skin. The mask howled in fury. No. Too soon. Not yet. The old man screamed, lunging for me, for the mask, for the crown. 6 a.m. The break. The light hit full. The vines convulsed, bursting into black smoke. The Maenads shrieked and shattered like glass, dissolving into ash. The mask burned white-hot, fusing to my face, then cracked down the center, splitting, falling away in shards. The old man collapsed against the stones, clutching his chest, eyes wide with horror as the dawn poured over him. His skin blistered, peeled, turned to dust. The pillars hummed once, then fell silent. And the clearing was empty. Just me. Just the Greystone sign in my hands. Just the rising sun. 6:15 a.m. Silence. The clearing was still. The air smelled of smoke and iron. The pillars loomed black but lifeless. Their hum had ceased. The vines lay in brittle heaps, ash clinging to their husks. I dropped the rusted Greystone sign and just stood there, waiting for something to move, to scream, to prove it wasn't over. Nothing came. The sun climbed higher, gold spilling over the tree line. And for the first time since I took the job, there was silence. 6:45 a.m. The walk back. I stumbled down the road, shoes shredded, blood dried in my palms. Every step felt wrong. No maenads dragging me, no vines hissing at my ankles, no mask whispering hunger in my ear. But the quiet wasn't comfort. The quiet felt like a trap. 7:20 a.m. The town. When I reached Morristown, it looked untouched. The square where they tried to root was just concrete again. The lampposts bent but standing. The windows intact. But I remembered the woman at the farmhouse window, clutching her rosary. She'd seen them. She'd seen me. How could the town look so clean when we tore it apart? 8 a.m. The hospital's shadow. I sat on a bench near the courthouse, hands trembling, waiting for cops, for sirens, for someone to demand answers. Nothing. Then I looked up the hill. And there it was. Greystone. Even from town, I could see its shadow against the sky, blacker than the tree line, sharper than the sun. It was too far to see details, yet I swore I saw vines crawling its windows. The mask was gone, but I could still hear its whisper, faint, riding the wind. You carried us far. You will again. 9:30 a.m. The survivor's doubt. I checked my phone. No new messages. No missed calls. The world hadn't stopped spinning. But when I opened the camera app, the screen fuzzed. Static. And then just for a heartbeat I saw myself, face still split by the mask. Then it blinked back to normal. 10 a.m. The rule I never broke. I thought about the rules, the ones Kavanaugh gave me my first night. No singing. No mirrors. No roots in the walls. I realized I never broke one. Not fully. Even when they shifted, even when they twisted, I obeyed. Maybe that's why I survived. Maybe survival was never about strength, or faith, or luck. Maybe it was about obedience. And that thought chilled me worse than the mask ever had. Noon. The wait. I haven't gone home yet. I sit in town, the Greystone sign leaning against my leg, rust flaking into the dirt. Nobody looks at me. Nobody asks why I'm carrying it. It's heavy. Too heavy for rusted tin. Like it's still pulling. Like it remembers. And when I close my eyes, I see them, the maenads, stomping, shrieking, waiting for me to bleed again. 1:15 p.m. The library. The town library smelled of dust and lemon polish. Quiet. Too quiet. I told myself I was just killing time, waiting for the shakes in my hands to stop. But really I was looking for Greystone. Every town's got its ghosts tucked in the stacks. I found them in the archives, yellow clippings curled at the edges, photographs black and white and gray all over. 2 p.m. The first story. Patient riot at Greystone Park 1917. The photo showed shattered windows, wards in flames. The article said the patients fell into frenzy during an unsanctioned gathering in the courtyard. Frenzy. The word was too familiar. The reporter called it an outbreak of mania, but the language was strange, howling, stomping in rhythm, tearing the earth with bare hands. I'd seen it. I'd lived it. 3:10 p.m. The second story. Local woman missing 1949. She was a nurse. Pretty smile in her staff photo, name scrubbed by time. The piece mentioned she had been heard singing hymns in the halls, even after repeated warnings from supervisors to stop. She disappeared one night, her quarters torn apart. Singing. Rule number 1. 4:20 p.m. The third story. Buried deep, a single-column piece from 1973. Unexplained collapse of south wing. Collapsed overnight, no one inside. Official cause, structural decay. But the reporter quoted a janitor who claimed, roots tore through the walls like knives. Roots in the walls. Another rule. 5 p.m. the name that repeated. As I flipped through clippings, one name cropped up again and again. Staff lists. Court testimonies. Obituaries. Kavanaugh. Sometimes spelled right. Sometimes with an extra A. Always tied to Greystone. Not one person a lineage. The man who gave me the rules wasn't just a supervisor. He was a keeper, same as the old man in the circle. Part of a chain. 6:30 p.m. the last file. In the reference room, a librarian brought me a manila folder with shaking hands. No index number. Just Greystone restricted stamped in red. Inside, photographs I wish I'd never seen. The mask, resting on a velvet cloth. Different men wearing it. Faces blurred. Maenads frozen mid-dance in grainy black and white, their eyes burning white in the camera flash. And in the margin, handwritten in a spidery scrawl. They walk until sunrise. If rooted before, all is lost. Remember the rules. 7 p.m. the unanswered question. I staggered out into the evening. The sun dipped low, shadows stretching long. My head throbbed. My hands shook. Because the rules weren't workplace safety quirks. They were scripture. Passed down. Refined. Tested in blood. And I realized I hadn't broken the chain. I was in it now. 8:15 p.m. the bar. I asked around. Bars always know more than libraries. You don't find truth in clippings. You find it in mouths too loose after a few drinks. I bought 2 shots for an old man hunched at the end of the counter, face raw from sun and years. Mentioned Greystone like I was testing a match in the dark. He winced, wouldn't look me in the eye. But when I said, Kavanaugh, his head snapped up. Don't, he whispered. Don't drag that name through your teeth. It'll taste like rust for weeks. 9 p.m. the story in pieces. Between sips, he told me enough. Kavanaughs had lived in Morris County since before the asylum. Bricklayers. Grave diggers. Orderlies. Priests. Always close to Greystone. Always passing something down. But the line was thinning. One son disappeared in the 70s. Another drowned in the reservoir. A daughter locked herself away in the house on Mount Kemble, curtains nailed shut. Bad blood, he muttered. That family's cursed. Born with rules stitched into their heads. 9:40 p.m. the address. I pressed. Finally, with a glance at the door, he scribbled an address on a napkin. Don't tell her I sent you. She'll skin me alive. The address was a mile outside town. An old farmhouse. Kavanaugh still lived. 10:15 p.m. the farmhouse. The porch light was dead. Curtains nailed shut, just like he said. I knocked once. Twice. A voice from behind the door, sharp, rasping. Who taught you the rules? I froze. She repeated, louder. Who taught you the rules? I swallowed, throat dry. Kavanaugh. At Greystone. He gave them to me. Silence. Then the door unlocked, chain clinking. 10:20 p.m. the keeper. She was thin, wiry, hair gone white but her eyes burned sharp. A revolver trembled in her hand, aimed square at my chest. Behind her, every wall was covered in nailed crosses, mirrors draped in cloth, salt lines thick across the floorboards. You shouldn't be standing, she said. Most who wear the mask don't see another dawn. Her lip curled. So tell me, what did you lose to survive? 10:21 p.m. The aim. Her revolver didn't waver. I could hear the faint tremor in her breath, but her arm was steady. You reek of it, she spat. That stink doesn't wash off. The mask got inside you. I burned it off, I said. My voice sounded like gravel. It cracked. It fell. She shook her head. Doesn't matter. If it touched your blood, you're marked. You'll carry it until it crowns you or kills you. 10:23 p.m. The litany. She stepped closer, gun barrel near my chest. Say them, she hissed. The rules. My mouth moved before I thought. No singing. No mirrors. No roots in the walls. Her face twisted. Relief, then rage. You know them. You lived them. Which means it's already begun again. 10:25 p.m. The curse. I asked why. Why me? Why anyone? Why the rules? Her jaw clenched. Because someone has to carry the march. That's what it is. Not a haunting. Not a myth. A march. The Maenads walk, and the mask chooses a mule to drag them. When the mule falls, another takes its place. Always a Kavanaugh nearby to watch, to pass the rules. Her hand shook now, just barely. We don't keep the rules. The rules keep us. You think survival was yours? It was obedience. They fed on it. They always do. 10:28 p.m. The accusation. You're lying, I said, though my stomach already knew she wasn't. Her eyes narrowed. No. I'm trying to spare you. You're carrying them, right now. Even without the mask, they ride your blood. She cocked the hammer. The cleanest thing I can do is put you down before they root again. 10:29 p.m. The split second. The farmhouse air thickened. I smelled rust. Ash. The faintest hiss, like vines stirring under the floorboards. Her finger tightened on the trigger. I had two choices. Let her fire, gamble she was wrong. Or move, fast, before the rules sealed my fate. The whisper slid through the room, too faint to be hers, too soft to be mine. Choose. One way or another, we root. 10:30 p.m. The shot. The gun cracked. Sound tore the farmhouse apart, rattling glass in their frames, blowing the dust from the rafters. But the bullet didn't hit me. It hit the wall behind me, splintering plaster, burying itself in something deeper than wood. And then the vines bled. 10:31 p.m. The wall opens. Where the slug sank, the wall pulsed a dark wetness seeping out, like sap that was half blood. The roots I'd seen in the tunnels had followed me here, creeping behind plaster, sleeping in the beams. The shot woke them. They writhed. Slow, deliberate. As if taking their time, knowing we couldn't run fast enough to matter. 10:32 p.m. Her reaction. She swore under her breath, holstering the revolver. Damn fool, they're closer than I thought. I backed against the table. What the hell is this? Her face looked carved from stone. Proof. You didn't believe me. Now you see. You carry them, and they'll bloom anywhere you go. That's the march. The vines kept pushing through the wall, long pale tendrils, slick with ichor, searching the air like antennae. 10:34 p.m. The rules reminder. She barked. Don't answer if they call. Don't sing. Don't mirror. Don't let them root. The rules again. The litany. Only this time I understood, they weren't guidelines for the hospital. They were a portable prison. Wherever the mule went, the rules went too. I was the mule. 10:35 p.m. The choice. The tendrils began forming shapes, fingers, almost. They stretched toward me, bypassing her completely. "See," she whispered. "It's you they want. You carry the mask even without it." The roots quivered in anticipation. And I felt it, a pull in my chest, as if my ribs were a door. I had to choose. Step forward, let them in, maybe end the chase. Or fight, cling to the rules, and keep running from what I already carried. The farmhouse floor creaked. The vines reached closer. And somewhere inside, a chorus hummed faint, rising, waiting for me to hum back. 10:37 p.m. The air thickens. The vines pressed closer, their tips quivering like wet mouths. The farmhouse walls groaned as if something larger, deeper, leaned against them from the other side. I clutched the table. The old woman, gun still warm in her hand, was watching me, not the vines. She knew where this was headed. 10:38 p.m. The hum. The sound started in my ears but sank into my teeth. A hum, low and steady, vibrating bone. Then the words bloomed inside my skull. "We've been walking with you a long time, mule." I staggered back. "No." The woman hissed, "Don't answer." But the words weren't spoken. They were grown, like roots sprouting through cracks in my head. "How do you not answer something already inside?" 10:39 p.m. The pull. The vines coiled at my feet. They didn't grab. Not yet. They brushed my boots, light as breath, waiting for me to lean in. "Open the door," the voices coaxed. "Stop carrying it locked. Stop bleeding alone. Let us drink, and we'll make you more than a man." I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. The metallic tang was grounding, almost enough. 10:40 p.m. Her command. The old woman slammed her palm on the table. "Repeat the third rule," she shouted at me. I shook my head. I couldn't think. The hum drowned thought. "Say it, damn you. Say it." And somehow my lips moved. "Do not sing when you hear them sing." The vines recoiled, shivering like snakes struck with a stick. 10:41 p.m. The cost. They didn't retreat far. Only enough to remind me I'd barely survived the first brush. The voices quieted, but not gone. They left behind a whisper, faint and steady. "You've carried us this far. You'll open soon. The mule always opens." I sank to my knees. I wasn't sure whose voice that was anymore, theirs, hers, or mine. 10:50 p.m. Silence after. The vines pulled back into the walls, dragging ichor trails across the floorboards. The silence afterward was worse than the sound. She poured 2 fingers of whiskey into a chipped mug and shoved it toward me. "Drink. Burns the roots. Won't last, but it buys time." The liquor scorched down my throat, but I could still taste the hum. 11:02 p.m. The first borrow. When I blinked, I wasn't in the farmhouse anymore. I was on the hospital's east stairwell, hand on the rusted railing, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. But I wasn't remembering. I was reliving. A woman's laugh echoed below. Not mine. Not real. The vines had found a memory and were wearing it like a mask. 11:03 p.m. Her voice. "We've seen your nights. We know what broke you." The laugh again, but closer this time. I knew whose laugh it was, someone I'd buried under months of silence. She had been alive once. She was dead now. And they were wearing her. 11:05 p.m. The interruption. I bit my cheek hard, forcing blood into my mouth. The farmhouse snapped back into place. The old woman was staring at me. "Where'd they take you?" "East stairwell," I whispered. She nodded grimly. "They're mapping you through the hospital. That's how they spread. If they can replay it, they can root it." 11:07 p.m. The new rule, unwritten. No paper listed it. No guideline sheet from the hospital spelled it out. But I felt it in my bones. Rule 6, hidden: do not trust the faces they borrow. Because they weren't only outside anymore. They could crawl backwards into memory, hollow it out, wear it like skin. And if I listened too long, I might not remember which parts were mine. 6 a.m. Waking wrong. I woke to sunlight streaming through a window. The farmhouse smelled like coffee, bacon, normal things. For a moment I thought maybe the night had been a nightmare. Maybe I'd fallen asleep on my first shift at Greystone and dreamed the whole damn thing. Then I heard her humming. 6:02 a.m. Her. She was standing at the stove, hair tied back, wearing the old sweatshirt I'd once left behind in someone else's apartment. She turned, smiling, holding out a mug. Rough night. Drink this. I almost reached for it. Almost. But then I remembered, she'd been dead for 3 years. 6:04 a.m. The test. The mug didn't steam. The bacon didn't sizzle. It was a still life, a painting the maenads made out of memory. Just drink. Let us in. Stop bleeding alone. The words crawled under her voice, spilling from her smile without moving lips. 6:05 a.m. Tearing it down. I slammed my fist against the wall. The plaster cracked. And like glass shattering, the kitchen folded back into the farmhouse. Rotting beams. Dust choking the air. No sunlight, just lantern glow. She was gone. The mug hit the floor and broke into pieces that were never there. 6:07 a.m. The old woman's verdict. She was sitting in the corner, eyes sharp. They'll keep doing that, she said flatly. They'll wear anyone you ever loved. Anyone you ever wanted. That's how they bind a mule tight. I rubbed my temples. The ache was worse than a hangover. How do I fight it? Her answer was colder than the night before. You don't fight. You forget. Every memory they steal becomes poison. Best you learn which to burn before they bloom it for you. 6:10 a.m. The dread. Forget. Burn the few memories I had left of her. The maenads didn't just want my body. They wanted my past, too. And I wasn't sure what would be left of me when they finished hollowing. 6:30 a.m. The stillness. The farmhouse was quiet except for the faint ticking of the stovepipe. The old woman had dozed in her chair, revolver resting on her lap. I tried to stand, but my legs didn't move. Not because I couldn't. Because they weren't mine anymore. 6:32 a.m. The shift. It started in my hands. Fingers twitching out of rhythm with my thoughts. I told them to flex. They curled the wrong way, stiff, jerky. Then my mouth opened. Not for air, for words. And a chorus spoke through me. Finally, the mule walks. 6:33 a.m. The dance. I staggered to my feet, body jerking like a puppet yanked by tangled strings. My head turned toward the window. I didn't want to look. But my eyes rolled anyway. And outside, where there should have been fields, I saw torchlight, a procession moving through the trees, women in torn gowns, crowned with ivy. The maenads. Marching toward us. 6:35 a.m. The countermeasure. The old woman snapped awake. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed the mug shards from the floor, sliced her own palm open, and smeared blood across my forehead. The voice inside me screamed, not mine, theirs. The control snapped. My knees buckled. She caught me by the collar and hissed. Don't ever let them march you. Once they take your legs, you'll never walk your own path again. 6:37 a.m. Aftermath. My breath came ragged, each inhale tasting like iron and ash. My hands still twitched, phantom echoes of the possession. The Maenad's laughter lingered in my chest. They'd tested the lock. Next time, I knew, they wouldn't just jiggle the handle, they'd break it clean open. 7 a.m. encircled. Through the warped glass of the farmhouse windows, I counted them. 10. 20. More. The torches wove in a slow circle, light bending through the trees. Their humming rose in waves, not words this time, but pure vibration, pressing against the house like a hand squeezing a ribcage. The woman pulled heavy curtains shut. Don't look too long. They'll catch your gaze, and then you'll walk out to meet them. 7:15 a.m. The scratching. The walls began to scratch. Not claws, not nails, branches. Roots curled in through gaps in the floorboards, thin as veins at first. They traced along the baseboards, feeling their way into the corners of the room. I stomped one under my boot. It burst like a blister, black sap spraying the wall. The others quivered but didn't retreat. 7:30 a.m. Rule reminder. She lit a circle of candles on the table, muttering. Her blood still smeared my forehead, dried to a tacky crust. Repeat it, she ordered. I forced the words out, voice shaking. Do not sing when you hear them sing. Do not answer when they call. Do not follow when they march. The roots stilled for a moment. Then the scratching started again, louder, as if mocking me. 8 a.m. The window test. Something tapped at the glass. I tried not to look. But my eyes betrayed me. It wasn't a torch. It was a face. Her face. The one they'd worn in the false morning. Eyes glassy, smile cracked wide, mouthing the same 3 rules I'd just spoken except each word bled. I jerked away, heart pounding. The woman grabbed my chin and forced my eyes down. They'll wear you dead until you open the door. Don't you ever answer them. 8:30 a.m. The waiting. The circle of torches stayed. The scratching stayed. The voices stayed. But they didn't break in. Not yet. I realized with a shudder that this was their first real siege. Not an attack, not a memory theft. A waiting game. Because the Maenad's didn't have to storm walls. They just had to sing until someone inside answered back. 9 a.m. The humming returns. The torches outside didn't move. They just circled. But the humming grew sharper, winding through the cracks of the house like smoke. It wasn't just sound anymore. It was rhythm. 3 beats pause. 3 beats pause. I found myself tapping my boot without thinking. The woman's hand shot out, clamped down on my ankle. Don't you ever move with them. 9:30 a.m. The inside voice. I thought I could shut them out if I stayed silent. But they didn't need my ears anymore. The chorus rose behind my eyes. And then the words came. You've carried us far. You've carried us well. But mules break when they march too long. Don't you want to rest? My jaw clenched so tight it popped. I bit the inside of my cheek raw just to drown them out. 10 a.m. The vision. I blinked, and the farmhouse ceiling peeled away. Above me wasn't sky, wasn't rafters, it was Greystone's great hall, the one long demolished. The Maenad's stood along the walls, silent, each holding a mask. I knew they wanted me to choose one. The old woman's voice yanked me back. What did you see? I swallowed hard. The hall. Masks. Her eyes went darker than before. Then you're further gone than I thought. 11 a.m. The second chorus. They sang again. Not humming this time, voices. Soft, layered, weaving the same line again and again. Walk with us. Walk with us. Walk with us. The woman clapped her hands over her ears. I did the same. But the words still bloomed in my chest like breath. I almost answered. I felt the word yes forming. She shoved the revolver into my palm, barrel cold against my skin. If you say it, you use this on yourself before they take the rest. 11:15 a.m. The breaking point. I stared down at the gun, trembling. Outside, the chorus grew louder, more insistent. Inside, their voices pressed harder. You are already ours. You've already opened. Say it, and the march ends. And for a heartbeat, I believed them. 11:20 a.m. The crack. The humming stopped. The silence after was so sudden I thought I'd gone deaf. Then the wall behind me split straight down the middle, a jagged wound opening from floor to ceiling. Roots surged through, thicker than my arms, pale and veined with pulsing black ichor. The farmhouse shuddered like it was breathing. 11:22 a.m. The breach. The old woman was on her feet instantly, dragging me away from the wall. They've chosen you. That means the house won't hold. The roots tore plaster, dragged beams down like kindling. One lashed across the table, knocking the candles into the floor. The circle went out. And when the flames died, I saw them in the gaps. Women's faces half-formed, shifting between flesh and bark, their mouths open in silent laughter. 11:25 a.m. The lure. They didn't rush us. They didn't have to. One leaned close through the broken wall, pressing her wooden face to the crack. Her lips brushed the plaster as she whispered. Walk with us, mule. Your legs already know the steps. My foot twitched toward the wall before I even realized. The woman grabbed my collar and slammed me back. Don't look at them. Don't breathe with them. 11:28 a.m. The fireline. She struck a match and dragged it across her bleeding palm, letting the flame lick blood. Then she hurled it onto the floor. The fire caught quick, too quick, like the house had been waiting to burn. Through the back, she shouted. We ran as the vines recoiled from the flames, screeching without sound, writhing away from the growing blaze. 11:30 a.m. Into the woods. We broke through the back door into daylight. But the torches were there, waiting, circling wider now, their bearers stepping from the trees. The maenads in full. Crowns of ivy, dresses rotting to ribbons, eyes too bright, too hungry. The woman raised her revolver. I raised nothing, my legs were moving on their own again. Toward them. 11:35 a.m. The first step. My boots hit dirt. The circle of torchlight parted just wide enough for me to step in. They didn't rush me. They wanted me to walk on my own. The old woman's hand clamped my arm. She fired the revolver straight up. The crack split the air. For a second, the maenads flinched. That second was all we had. 11:36 a.m. Flight. We bolted into the tree lean, smoke from the burning farmhouse curling behind us. The woods weren't woods anymore. Roots curled across the path like veins under skin. The trees bent toward each other overhead, closing off the light. The hum followed us closer now, no longer circling. It pressed at our spines, urging our legs into rhythm with theirs. I stumbled once, and for half a heartbeat, my stride matched theirs. 11:40 a.m. The pull. You're already walking with us, the chorus sang. Why fight the steps? Each root I leapt over twisted up after me, grabbing at my boots, trying to drag me down. The old woman hacked at them with a rusted machete she'd pulled from under her coat. Each swing came with a grunt, each grunt sounding older, weaker. Don't stop, she panted. If you stop, they dance you. 11:45 a.m. The clearing. We burst into a clearing, both of us gasping. But the torches were already there. No matter which way we ran, they curved ahead, forming the circle tighter. I realized it then. We weren't escaping. We were being herded. 11:47 a.m. The circle tightens. The maenads stepped from the tree lean one by one, forming the ring. No torches now, just bare hands, skin cracked and bleeding sap, crowns of ivy dripping black nectar down their faces. And in perfect unison, they began to clap. 3 beats pause. 3 beats pause. The same rhythm that had been inside my skull. And my body wanted to move with it. 11:50 a.m. the first clap. The sound wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The rhythm slid under my ribs, caught my heartbeat, and pulled it into sync. I felt my foot lift without permission. Down. Up. Down. The Maenad swayed in the same motion, dozens of bodies tilting in perfect rhythm. The old woman slapped me hard across the face. "Don't you start," she hissed. 11:52 a.m. the circle of faces. Each time they clapped, their faces shifted. One moment, ivy crowns. The next people I'd known. Orderlies from Greystone. A neighbor from my old block. My mother. Every step I took, another face turned familiar. The woman spat on the dirt and drew a shaky circle around herself with the machete's tip. "Stay in here," she warned, voice cracking. But I was already half out of it. 11:55 a.m. the chorus words. Their humming broke into words. Left foot, mule. Right foot, mule. Walk until the weight is gone. The sound hit like command. My legs obeyed. I stumbled forward, toward the nearest Maenad. Her arms opened like she was ready to catch me. The old woman screamed my name and fired. The shot shattered the rhythm for a split second. 11:57 a.m. blood on the dirt. The bullet didn't drop her. Nothing dropped her. But the crack tore through the air and split my mind back open, enough for me to wrench my foot back inside the circle she'd drawn. The Maenads hissed as one, a sharp exhale through teeth. But they didn't stop clapping. Didn't stop swaying. Their rhythm pressed harder, wrapping tighter around my chest. 12 p.m. the edge. I pressed both hands to my ears, but it didn't matter. The song was in my blood now, crawling under my skin like vines. The woman leaned close, whispering, desperate. "You break rhythm, or you break yourself. There's no other way." And I knew what she meant. The revolver was still heavy in my pocket. 12:02 p.m. the weight of the gun. My thumb found the hammer. My finger pressed into cold steel. The old woman's words kept circling in my skull like a mosquito. Break rhythm, or break yourself. The clapping pounded like a second pulse. My own blood wanted to match it. My foot jerked against the dirt. My chest rose and fell with their chant. 12:04 p.m. a shudder in the song. Then. A rupture. Not mine. Theirs. A single clap went wrong, sharp and out of place. The circle faltered. Their bodies jerked, faces twitching, and the rhythm snagged like a warped record. The old woman's machete clattered to the ground. Her eyes went wide. "You feel that? Something's fighting them. Hold it." 12:07 p.m. the voice in the static. The earpiece in my pocket crackled. I hadn't touched my radio since the basement hadn't dared. But now it whispered, a low static that formed words I shouldn't have understood. Greek. Not spoken, but felt. 3 words, like a rope thrown into deep water. I grabbed the radio, clutched it to my chest, and the rhythm around me fractured again. 12:10 p.m. the Maenads recoil. They screeched. Not angry, terrified. Hands that had been reaching for me snapped back as if burned. The circle widened. The clapping stuttered and fell apart, each woman breaking into spasms of movement, tripping over their own feet. The chant dissolved into chaotic muttering, some of it English, some of it raw animal noise. One staggered toward me and collapsed, convulsing in the dirt like a puppet cut from strings. 12:13 p.m. The old woman's warning. She snatched her machete back up and hissed through clenched teeth. That wasn't you. Don't you dare think you're safe. They'll come back stronger. That was. She didn't finish. She couldn't. Because at that moment, every Maenad's face turned to the same shape. The same woman. Crowned in ivy. Eyes rolled white. Mouth stretched too wide in a scream that wasn't sound but pressure, crushing down from all sides. 12:15 p.m. The face of the mistress. I knew her without knowing. The way you know fire before you touch it. The way a dog knows thunder before the storm breaks. Dionysus' bride. The one who led the frenzy. The Maenads weren't just fragments. They were her fingers. And now she was reaching. 12:17 p.m. Collapse of the circle. The bodies dropped one by one. Not limp. Not dead. They folded like marionettes laid aside. But even as they fell, something remained. The rhythm wasn't gone. It pressed into my ears without hands, without clapping. A pulse. A drumbeat from under the earth itself. The old woman staggered back, machete raised but useless. Her lips moved like she was praying but no sound came. 12:20 p.m. The vine crown. The air thickened. Heat poured in from nowhere. Vines crawled out of the dirt, weaving into a shape a crown, suspended above the ground, dripping with juice that smelled of rotting grapes. The bodies of the Maenads twitched in unison. Mouths opened. The same voice poured from all of them at once. I am she who is many. You dance or you die. 12:23 p.m. The hidden rule. The gun was heavy in my hand. The radio burned against my chest. And in the hiss of static, I heard another fragment. One break. Two survive. Not rules I had been given. Not part of the list. But the truth clicked sharp in my brain. The rules they gave us weren't for safety. They were containment. Half-truths to keep workers alive just long enough to be consumed. The real rule, the one hidden beneath, was this. Break the pattern at the moment she unites, or she takes everything. 12:27 p.m. The fracture. The drumbeat grew louder, forcing my heart to match it. If it synced, if it locked me into rhythm, I'd be hers. I slammed the butt of my pistol into the ground hard, offbeat, deliberate. My hand split. Blood smeared the dirt. The sound echoed. Not much. But enough. The vines shivered. The crown flickered. The unified voice shrieked not in rage, but in pain. 12:30 p.m. The mistress shows herself. The air tore. No metaphor. It split like paper ripped from the inside. And through it, I saw her. Not fully, not flesh. But a face of shifting ivy and bone, eyes hollowed out, teeth like broken amphorae. She bent close enough that the soil shook beneath my boots. You learn fast. But you cannot stop the dance. Her breath was wine and rot. And then she smiled. 12:32 p.m. The ground splits. Her smile widened, and the earth beneath me split like old concrete under floodwater. Vines writhed upward, slick and veined, reaching not to bind me but to pull me into step. Each tendril struck the dirt in perfect rhythm, like drumsticks. They wanted my feet. They wanted my body. They wanted me in the circle. The old woman screamed something behind me, swinging her machete wildly at the air. The blade hit Vine, sliced clean, but the severed piece just kept moving, clapping against the ground by itself. 12:34 p.m. The pull of the dance. The beat drilled into my chest. My knees buckled. I felt my hips twitch, my head nod. It was inside. Like a song you can't stop humming, even when you hate it. But this wasn't a tune. This was possession. I dropped the gun. Clapped my hands once. My body betrayed me. Her laugh thundered through the chamber, rattling rust off the walls. Yes. Step in. Give yourself. Join. 12:36 p.m. The old woman's gambit. Then steel flashed. The old woman slammed her machete into my forearm. Pain exploded. Blood poured. The shock snapped me out of rhythm for half a second. I looked at her through tears and rage, but she only hissed. Better to bleed than dance. Remember that, boy. The vines faltered at the disruption. 12:38 p.m. The chorus breaks. The bodies of the fallen maenads convulsed. Their mouths opened wider than any jaw should. The same scream tore out, layered and doubled, breaking against itself like feedback. The sound wasn't rhythm. It wasn't harmony. It was discord. And discord hurt her. Her crowned head recoiled. The vines shivered. The soil cracked. 12:41 p.m. The mistress strikes. She pushed back. No vines this time. No voices. Her face dropped toward me like a falling building. I swear I felt the air bend, every atom vibrating. My eardrums split. My nose poured blood. And still she came closer, mouth opening wide enough to swallow me whole. The old woman screamed in my ear. Make the static louder. The radio was still in my pocket. 12:43 p.m. Fumbling hands. Her mouth kept widening, black and wet and endless. Every breath she drew pulled the air out of my lungs. I jammed my shaking hand into my pocket, fingers slick with blood from where the machete had cut me. They slipped, couldn't grip the damn plastic. The old woman's voice was barely a hiss now. Now, boy now. 12:44 p.m. The static unleashed. The radio came free. I twisted the knob, cranked the volume until it clicked. A wall of static erupted, hissing and spitting like boiling oil. The vines recoiled first, snapping back into the dirt. Then the bodies twitched, spasmed, rolled to their sides as if electrocuted. And the mistress. She screamed. Not through mouths, not through vines. Through everything. The walls shook. The ground heaved. Dust rained down in choking clouds. 12:46 p.m. The old woman falls. The old woman dropped to her knees, hands clamped to her ears. Blood leaked from between her fingers. Her machete clanged uselessly onto the floor. Her mouth opened, forming words, but the static drowned her. I stumbled toward her, half blind, clutching the radio to my chest like a beating heart. But every step closer, the static bit me 2 sharp needles in my skull. The mistress had retreated, but the weapon was double-edged. 12:48 p.m. The smile in retreat. Through the haze I saw her one last time, her crowned face pressed against the air like glass. She didn't rage. She didn't scream. She smiled. Slow. Wide. Certain. Her voice crawled up through the static. You cannot hold dissonance forever. Then she was gone. The vines wilted. The bodies lay still. The rhythm stopped. 12:51 p.m. Aftermath. I killed the radio. The silence afterward was worse than the static, empty, heavy, alive. The old woman sagged against me, her ear dark with blood. She looked up at me with one clouded eye and said, almost calm. You bought time. That's all. Then she passed out. And I was alone with her, the still bodies, and the knowledge that the mistress wasn't defeated. Only waiting. 1:10 p.m. The silence that follows. The old woman's breathing was shallow but steady. The maenads' bodies still twitched occasionally, but without rhythm. Like fish dying on a dock. I couldn't carry her far, not with my arms split and head ringing. But I couldn't leave her here either. The static was still in my skull, etched into me. And under it, faint but sure, I felt the drumbeat again. She wasn't done. 1:18 p.m. The pull downward. Every corridor led me downward. Not by choice. Stairwells I swore hadn't been there before opened in the walls. The hallways narrowed into old stone, rough and sweating moisture, until the hospital above felt like another life. The air was wine-sweet, cloying, enough to choke. The walls dripped with purple stains that looked too fresh. The old woman stirred in my arms once and rasped, "Basement catacombs. They've been feeding her for decades." Then she went still again. 1:27 p.m. The bones beneath. The catacombs were lined with alcoves. Not empty. Skulls, femurs, ribcages stacked like cordwood, all painted faintly green by moss. Some still wore name tags, brittle plastic from hospital wards decades old. Employees. Patients. Sacrifices. I understood, then, the rules weren't about survival. They were about managing the feed. Keeping the mistress satisfied but contained. And now I'd broken it. 1:34 p.m. The hidden altar. The corridor widened into a chamber. At the center was an altar, low and broad, carved from a single slab of granite. Dried wine darkened its surface. But beneath it, the stone was cracked, and something inside those cracks pulsed faintly with light. The static flared in my skull. The radio buzzed in my pocket without me touching it. A single phrase cut through, clearer than anything I'd heard before. 1 breaks the rhythm. 2 break the crown. 1:37 p.m. The mistress returns. The walls bulged. The vines returned, thick and black-veined, surging from between the stones. And then she stepped through. Not just a face, not a glimpse, a body of tangled ivy and bone, towering, crowned, trailing 1,000 hands that clapped and clapped in rising tempo. The old woman's eyes fluttered open. She whispered, barely audible. "This is it. The last dance." 1:40 p.m. The mistress in full. She filled the chamber. No more fragments, no more whispers. The crowned figure loomed, a living altar of vines and bone, hands sprouting everywhere, clapping in perfect unison. The rhythm was deafening, so loud it made the stone itself pulse in time. The old woman dragged herself upright beside me, blood still drying on her temple. Her machete trembled in her hands. She's whole now. And whole, she feeds. 1:43 p.m. The crown. Her eyes, if you could call them eyes, burned on me. The crown of ivy above her head writhed, shifting, every vine root dug into her skull like nails. And I remembered the phrase. The static's gift. 1 breaks the rhythm. 2 break the crown. I'd broken the rhythm already. Now it was the crown. 1:45 p.m. The first attempt. I raised my gun. Fired into her face. The bullets hit, tearing vines and splintering bone, but the rhythm didn't falter. The crown pulsed brighter, stronger. Her voice filled the chamber, grinding like stone on stone. "Mortal. You are the step in my dance." The vines lashed forward, wrapping my legs, my arms, dragging me toward her. 1:47 p.m. The old woman strike. The old woman staggered forward, screaming with every shred of breath left in her lungs, and drove her machete straight into the crown. The room convulsed. The rhythm staggered. The vines loosened for a moment. But it wasn't enough. The blade bent, snapped, spat sparks. She collapsed. The mistress laughed, lifting her ruined crown higher. 1:49 p.m. The final choice. I felt the static in my skull again. Louder now. Not just noise instruction. Break the crown. But not with steel. With blood. I looked at the split in my arm, still weeping red. I understood. The altar beneath her wasn't stone. It was hungry. One life to end the cycle. One sacrifice to make the crown fall. 1:51 p.m. the blood offering. I dragged myself to the altar, the mistress roaring above me, her 1,000 hands slapping, the rhythm deafening. I slammed my bleeding arm into the crack. The stone drank it like dry soil. The rhythm faltered. The hands froze mid-clap. The crown shrieked an unholy, ripping sound as the vines writhed and tore themselves apart. The mistress staggered. Her body split, collapsing in on itself, dissolving into roots and bone dust. 1:55 p.m. the silence. It ended in silence. Not peace. Just absence. The altar smoked. The crown lay in shattered pieces on the stone. The old woman crawled beside me, coughing, her face pale. "You did it," she rasped. "God help you, you did it." 2 p.m. aftermath. The Maenads' bodies were gone. No trace. The vines crumbled to ash at my feet. The air cleared of wine-sweet rot. I staggered back toward daylight with the old woman leaning against me, each step an eternity. Behind us, the catacombs groaned and shifted, stone closing over the altar like it had never been. I don't know how long the silence will last. I don't know if I broke the cycle or just bought time. But if you ever find yourself inside Greystone's walls, if you hear the clapping, if your body starts to move without your will, remember this. Break the rhythm. Break the crown. And pray you have enough blood left when the moment comes.